Chapter 272. This battle had truly come at the right time for no reason at all. Qin Wushuang did not even know the background of the Nine Palace faction, but these guys had attacked without any reason. Since they had attacked, Qin Wushuang knew that once Upper Sky warriors attacked, it was impossible for them not to kill. If you don't kill the opponent will kill you. This was a simple rule. That senior brother Wang had used his best move right from the start. Obviously, he wanted to take his life. If Qin Wushuang showed mercy, it would be irresponsible of him. Thus, he would not show any mercy when he attacked. He used his advantage and agility to kill one of them right from the start. How could he not see that although the short guy was the fiercest, he was also the weakest one? Qin Wushuang suddenly turned and attacked with lightning speed. Plus, with his advantage in terms of cultivation level, he was able to kill him instantly. Qin Wushuang was also overjoyed when he saw that his attack was successful. He knew that killing this person instantly reduced the opponent's strength. This was one of the reasons. Most importantly, this attack was enough to establish his dominance. Looking at Senior Brother Wang's reaction, he knew that this attack had absolutely intimidated him. Or else, Senior Brother Wang would not have been so panicked and immediately warned his companions. Qin Wushuang said eerily, "Nine Palace faction, is it? I will remember you. Those who attack me first, there's only one path left. That is, the road to the underworld." After he had finished speaking, Qin Wushuang did not linger any longer. Instead, he dashed forward at a fast speed. Since he had broken through the defense of this group of people, Qin Wushuang could not retreat anymore. He had to get rid of the encirclement of these three forces as soon as possible. After running a few steps, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. His white ferret had been exposed in front of this person. If he left now, wouldn't it be inappropriate if he found some clues? Thinking about this, he slowed down his steps. At this moment, Senior Brother Wang had already arrived. He waved the tiger, jointed steel whip in his hand again, sending out layers of spiritual light. Although this Senior Brother Wang's strength was not bad, he was not much stronger than Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang didn't engage with him mainly because he wanted to observe this person's fighting style and thus control the rhythm. But to his surprise, Qin Wushuang retreated 3 times in a row. Suddenly, Qin Wushuang saw a ray of light shooting towards him at an unparalleled speed. It was actually a sharp arrow. The speed of this arrow was as fast as a meteor streaking across the sky. Its momentum was astonishing. Qin Wushuang initially thought that it was an attack aimed at him. Just as he was about to dodge, he saw that the arrow was actually aimed at the back of Senior Brother Wang's head. Qin Wushuang was truly shocked. The remaining initial stage warriors shouted, "Senior Brother Wang, there are arrows. Dodge quickly." Senior Martial Brother Wang was obviously aware of the ferocious attack coming from behind him, but his attack was too fast, and he couldn't stop in time. He could only twist his body and forcefully move to the side. With this move, the momentum of his attack was greatly obstructed. Immediately, Qin Wushuang saw his weakness. Qin Wushuang did not even think as he raised his hand and poked with the coagulated sword. Boom! The sword chi directly hit the chest of that Senior Brother Wang. Although he had the protection of the armor, of course, he did not feel good after this attack. Instantly, his blood and chi were in turmoil, and his entire body felt numb. It was as uncomfortable as being bitten by a few thousand ants. Senior Brother Wang gave a loud roar and turned to escape. Only, with a whoosh sound, another arrow had shot at him from behind. This arrow was still accurate and aimed at the back of his head. It had cooperated well with Qin Wushuang. Regardless of how strong Senior Brother Wang's moves were, under his injuries, he could not avoid the power of this arrow from an elite warrior that was not any weaker than him. He only saw the spiritual chi shake, and suddenly, the strange lights dispersed. Boom! With a giant sound, Senior Brother Wang's entire head seemed to have been hit by a golden melon hammer. Instantly, it shattered into pieces of flesh, and white brain matter splattered all over the ground. Qin Wushuang immediately dodged, and finally, he did not get hit by this dirty blood. He raised his head and saw a person in the distance holding a spiritual bow in his hand while covering his chest. Although his face was pale, his eyes were as alert as a falcon's. When the remaining initial stage warrior saw that senior brother Wong had been killed, naturally, he turned pale with fright and escaped in a hurry. How could the person opposite him allow him to escape? He knocked a bow and shot an arrow. The bow was like a full moon, and the arrow was like a shooting star. Whoosh! This time, it was not as troublesome as killing senior brother Wong. Instead, one arrow had ended this person's life. In the blink of an eye, 3 upper sky realm warriors had died like flowing water. This change of events had happened extremely quickly. For a time, even a powerful figure like Qin Wushuang was somewhat surprised. That person approached in a few steps and cupped his hands at Qin Wushuang. With a grin on his pale face, he pulled the 3 corpses together. A little bottle appeared in his hand, and he poured a few drops of the liquid onto the corpses. The liquid emitted a pungent smell. That person poked with his hand, and a spurt of flame shot out from his palm onto the 3 corpses. Whoosh! Instantly, this spurt of flame burned fiercely and ignited the 3 corpses. Smoke and fire soared to the sky, and in a moment, they had been burned into ashes. Qin Wushuang looked at this person carefully and saw that he had a gloomy expression. Since he was born with a cold face, plus he had suffered internal injuries, his pale face had made him appear even more gloomy and lonely. When that person saw Qin Wushuang's surprised face, he twitched his mouth again and revealed a trace of a strange smile. "Thank you." "Thank me for what?" Qin Wushuang asked unconsciously. That person did not explain. "It's not good to stay here. If you're interested, let's go somewhere else to talk. If not, let's part ways and you can go your own way. This debt will definitely not be counted on your head." This person was also free and easy. Although his expression was aloof, he did not pester and turned to leave. Qin Wushuang looked ahead and knew that if he continued to walk forward, he would definitely bump into this group of people, which would not be good. Moreover, he had some doubts in his heart and wanted to ask this person for confirmation. Therefore, he did not hesitate and followed the person's footsteps into the depths of the Great Canyon. The 2 of them went deep into the canyon and soon arrived at an underground karst cave. This karst cave had 9 turns and 18 twists. It was unknown how many twists and turns there were. Seeing Qin Wushuang follow, that person smiled slightly and stopped in a slightly more spacious place. He dug out a big wine gourd from the soil and threw it to Qin Wushuang. "Help me kill the enemy, and I'll treat you to a drink." Qin Wushuang saw that although this person's eyes were indifferent, the corner of his eyes inadvertently revealed a kind of warm heart like that of a newborn child. He should be a person who is cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. Without any hesitation, he grabbed the wine gourd and gulped down a few mouthfuls. When this wine entered his mouth, it was cool and refreshing. Once it entered his stomach, it was like a raging fire. When Qin Wushuang drank this wine, he knew that it was not an ordinary item. He immediately used the spiritual power in his dantian to suppress the wine. At this moment, he realized that the wine had turned into plentiful spiritual power and continuously flowed towards his dantian. This wine was a wine of spiritual power. Qin Wushuang grabbed the gourd with a shocked face. That person smiled lightly. "This is the 9 refined yin-yang spiritual wine. I robbed it from the 9 Palace faction. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have been chased by the 9 Palace faction's law enforcement group for tens of thousands of miles." Huh. Speaking here, this person coughed a few times. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dirty blood. He took a few deep breaths and grinned. "Mother asterisk asterisk her. These bastards are really powerful. I killed 4 or 5 of them along the way, and they still managed to get here. Those 3 arrows just now consumed a lot of my spiritual power." Qin Wushuang sighed. "Just now, you didn't have to expose yourself." That person had an indifferent expression. "Didn't expose myself? Letting them escape is not good for you." Qin Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. He thought that this person was really something. That person waved his hand. "Of course, you don't have to be grateful. If it weren't for you, of course I wouldn't have exposed myself. Therefore, I didn't do it to help you, but to protect myself." Then, As if he was afraid that Qin Wushuang would not believe him, he explained, destroying the enemy's living forces is also a form of self-protection. This one guy chased after me all the way, but now he's going to die earlier than me? Ha ha ha. His laughter affected his wounds again. He coughed violently and spat out a few more mouthfuls of black blood. Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh and took out a jade-colored pill from his storage bag. Indeed, it was one of the 3 9 reversal sun pills that Tan Zhongqi had given him. He threw it over. Take it. Take it immediately. It's good for your injuries. That person didn't hold back. He grabbed it and threw it into his mouth. He circulated his spiritual power to digest the pill. In an instant, that person's expression changed slightly. He had obviously sensed the extraordinariness of this pill. There was a bit of surprise on his face. He looked at Qin Wushuang with a bit more admiration. This admiration was not gratitude, but pure admiration. He hadn't seen many people in his life who could be so generous in their first meeting. This was practically the first time he had met someone like this. Of course, the 9 refinements yin-yang spiritual serum that he gave Qin Wushuang was also a rare item. It was not inferior to this 9 reversal yang pill in the slightest. It was just that he didn't say it out loud. This 9 reversal yang pill was indeed no small matter. In just a quarter of an hour, that person's face gradually turned from pale to somewhat rosy. Good pill. That person praised as he opened his eyes. There was a rare trace of passion in his eyes. This was the light of hope of recovering one's life force. It was the joy of recovering one's injuries. It was full of vitality. Let me introduce myself. My name is Shangyi. I have no father, no mother, no sect, and am just a lonely ghost. I come from the Red Dragon Empire. Red Dragon Empire? Qin Wushuang was shocked inwardly. He had never heard of the 9 Palace faction. However, he had vaguely heard from his teacher about the Red Dragon Empire. It was one of the 3 strongest upper-ranking empires in the Tianxian land. Seeing Qin Wushuang's shocked expression, Shang Yi did not feel strange. After all, the Red Dragon Empire was tens of thousands of miles away from here. It could be said that they were separated by thousands of rivers and mountains. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to appear in the eastern region. All the empires in the human countries had a fixed area of activity. They rarely interfered with other areas. If they did, it would be seen as an offense and violation. Qin Wushuang asked emotionally, "That 9 Palace faction, is it a sect of your Red Dragon Empire?" There was a trace of resentment in Shang Ye's eyes. 9 Palace faction, humph. It is the number 1 sect of the Red Dragon Empire, just like your archaic mystery sect in the Heavenly Lake Empire. Qin Wushuang was shocked inwardly. He thought that it was indeed the case. Red Dragon Empire, 9 Palace faction, author's note, second update. I went out to do some things, and I will come back at night for 3 consecutive announcements. These 2 days, the monthly votes have been low. I did not shout because I felt that I did not have the face to shout at the 3rd update. Today, I hope that I have the confidence to shout. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 273. In the human countries of the Tianxian land, according to his teacher, Tan Zhongqi, the upper-ranking empire was the highest existence. They were super powerhouses with perfect stage powerhouses. Although the Tianxian land was as vast as the open sea, the human countries respected them. No wonder that disciple of the 9 Palace was so tyrannical. Indeed, he had an extraordinary background. Although the elite warriors of the upper-ranking empire were suspected of crossing the border, they were still tyrannical when they came to the middle-ranking empire. It was apparent that they were used to being arrogant and did not put these middle-ranking empires in their eyes. That Shang Yi explained again. In total, the 9 Palace sent 13 elite warriors of the law enforcement group to kill me. 4 of them were middle-stage warriors and 8 were initial-stage warriors. I killed 4 along the way. The remaining 9 people forced me into the Heavenly Lake Empire. Ha ha! He patted the bow on his back and said again, If I didn't have this bow, I am afraid I would have been devoured into ashes by these bastards. Now, plus the 3 from before, I have killed 7 of the 13 law enforcement group members. Even if I die, I have made it. We said here, Shang Ye's tone was full of arrogance. He shook his head and spat. Of course, it's not that easy for these bastards to kill me. He looked at Qin Wushuang with gratitude and said seriously, your pill is not simple. My injuries have healed 70 to 80%. At this speed, I am afraid I will be fully healed in one day. Qin Wushuang waved his hand. Your wine is also not ordinary. You did not take advantage of me. Shang Yi shook his head. No, I gave you the wine to thank you for your help in getting rid of those 3 bastards. That wine was just icing on the cake for you. But this pill of yours, to me, is like sending charcoal in snowy weather. It's a good thing that can save my life. Thus, I owe you this favor. Friends in adversity, let's not talk about favors. Now, the most crucial thing is how to get rid of the other 6 people. Qin Wushuang said. Shang Yi nodded seriously. After thinking for a moment, he asked, are you really determined to fight the enemy with me? Qin Wushuang coldly said, since they provoked me, in for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Otherwise, leaving these people behind will only cause trouble in the future. Aren't you afraid of implicating your sect and the Heavenly Lake Empire? Qin Wushuang grinned. I am not from the Heavenly Lake Empire. Shang Yi was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. Good. Haha, good. This move of yours is also very evil, and it has won my heart. It wasn't that the Heavenly Lake Empire didn't know that the Red Dragon Empire's law enforcers had entered their territory, but they didn't dare to ask. Their cowardly temperament made me feel that they were underestimated. At first, I thought it was strange that you said you were from the Heavenly Lake Empire, but I didn't expect that you were also making it up. The distance between the 2 of them narrowed by quite a bit. Shang Yi sighed and said, I have a cold personality. In my entire life, I have never laughed so many times. Interesting. Seeing those bastards from the 9 Palace lose their lives, I feel that it is interesting. Brother Shang, do you have a grudge against the 9 Palace? A strange light flashed in Shang Ye's eyes as he nodded. We cannot live under the same sky. I grew up without parents and only had one master who took me in. And my master was hunted down and killed by the 9 Palace. Killing one's master is the same as killing one's father. Qin Wushuang was speechless as he sighed. One person against a sect, Brother Shang, I am deeply impressed by your courage. But forgive me for being blunt, it is not a wise move. Shang Yi sighed. How could I not know? That's why I never went to provoke the headquarters of the 9 Palace, and never let the outside world know that I am Master's only disciple. This time, when I stole the 9 refinements yin-yang spiritual wine, I accidentally heard that the number 1 winemaker of the 9 Palace had used a place with abundant spiritual power to make this batch of wine. I found out the route and stole it. Brother Shang, you are very brave. I just don't know what special effects this 9 refinements yin-yang spiritual wine has. After it entered my stomach, I felt that it was cold at first, then hot. The repeated changes are very magical. This is the magical effect of the 9 refinements yin-yang spiritual wine. The 9 transformations of yin and yang use the wine to turn into spiritual power and stimulate the sea of qi in the dantian to form extremely rich spiritual power. Drinking 1 mouthful of the 9 refinements yin-yang spiritual wine is comparable to 3 months of hard work. This wine is made from the underground spring water of the Red Dragon Empire's Redwater Cold Pond. Then, with the help of the rare opportunity of a combination of hot and cold energy, it is extremely rare. Even a big sect like the 9 Palace only made 3 gourds. Think about it. How could the 9 Palace not be angry after I stole 1 gourd? There was a trace of impudence in Shang Ye's tone. Apparently, he hated the 9 Palace very much. It turned out that there was a very strange place in the Red Dragon Empire called the Crimson Cold Pond. The water in this pond was either ice cold or boiling hot. These 2 states were intertwined. Once the 2 forms appeared at the same time, it would be the best time to refine the 9 refinements yin-yang spiritual wine. However, this opportunity was extremely rare. It only appeared once in 10 years, and it would not appear for more than 3 days. The amount of underground spring water that could be extracted was very little, and the amount that could be refined into spiritual wine was even less. Although there were only 3 gourds, it was enough to be used as the most precious treasure of the Nine Palace faction for 10 years. If a core disciple encountered a bottleneck, he could break through the bottleneck with the help of the spiritual wine made from the spiritual power of the heaven and earth. This spiritual wine was not like ordinary medicinal pellets. After consuming it, not only would it not affect the potential of the core disciple, it could even stimulate their potential. Therefore, it was a rare treasure. The Nine Palace faction was 100% authoritative in the Red Dragon Empire. No one dared to take advantage of them. Therefore, although they were cautious when escorting them, they could not help but be careless. Shang Yi took advantage of their carelessness and stole a gourd. Then, he turned around and left. Even so, the Nine Palace faction's response was very fast. After they had investigated Shang Ye's power, they sent out a corresponding law enforcement team to kill him. They only had one goal, which was to take back the 9 refinements Yin Yang spiritual serum and kill him. However, the Nine Palace faction did not expect that Shang Yi had a powerful bow left by their teacher. Along the way, he had killed many law enforcement elite warriors of the Nine Palace faction. After Qin Wushuang heard Shang Ye's explanation, he finally understood. So, this was how the grudge between Shang Yi and the Nine Palace faction came about. At the same time, he had a higher opinion of Shang Yi. Even though it was the first time they met, he was generous enough to take out such a good thing to entertain him. Such a person was worth befriending. Qin Wushuang felt that he did not have many friends around him. Besides his fellow disciples, there was almost no one who was as powerful as him. If he could make a few more friends like him, it'd be a good thing when he traveled outside. Although Shang Yi had a cold expression, he was a warm-hearted person once he opened his heart. With Qin Wushuang's 2 lifetimes of experience, of course, he could see that this guy was worth befriending. At the moment, he smiled. Brother Shang, at this moment, I think you should keep a low profile and increase your power. You don't need to get involved with the Nine Palace faction. After all, you are alone now. Once you attract the elite warriors of the Nine Palace faction, you'll have to bear the consequences. Shang Yi sighed. How could I not think the same? I stole the 9 refinements Yin Yang spiritual wine to increase my training speed. This item is indeed powerful. When I got it, I was close to breaking through the middle stage. And now, my middle stage is very stable. And back and forth, it took less than half a year. As Shang Yi said this, he looked at Qin Wushuang with a faint smile. Your power is not bad. You should be at the middle stage, right? Qin Wushuang saw that Shang Yi did not ask for his name. He was an upright person and thought for others. He could not help but have a better impression of him. Yes, I am Qin Wushuang. It has only been half a year since I broke through the middle stage. Qin Wushuang? Good name. Shang Yi praised. Since you have told me your name, I will keep it a secret even if I die. I will take responsibility for the death of the disciples of the Nine Palace faction. Regardless of his future, life, or death, you don't need to worry about your name being leaked. Shang Ye's tone was calm and carried an unquestionable sincerity. Qin Wushuang flashed his hand and an item appeared. It was the mask given to him by the Shakyamuni 1,000 transformations when he went to the Green Jade Mountain. Qin Wushuang no longer used it and replaced it with another one given to him by his teacher, Tan Zhongqi. Here is a mask. You can use it. This way, once you walk out of the sky-breaking canyon, you can disappear into the sea of people. If the Nine Palace faction wants to find you, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack. Joy emerged on Shang Ye's face as he took it and put it on. As he touched it, it was smooth and unobstructed as if he was not wearing the mask. It was as if he was touching his own skin. Good move, good stuff. Shang Yi praised, and a trace of joy emerged in his eyes. He stood up and said seriously, Brother Qin, I have been alone since I was young and have no brothers. Today, I feel like you are my old friend, and I want to become your sworn brother. Although this is somewhat old-fashioned, it is my sincere heart. Qin Wushuang grabbed the mask, and showed his true face. He also said with joy, "I also have the same intention." The two did not pretend to be pretentious, as they used the dirt as incense and bowed. Shang Yi said, "I, Shang Yi, am willing to become your sworn brother, Qin Wushuang. We will not fear swords or blades or arrows. We will live and die together, and we will never regret it." Qin Wushuang also followed his words and told him their ages. Shang Yi was 27 years old and was also young and promising. However, when he heard Qin Wushuang say that he was 18 years old, Shang Yi also clicked his tongue in wonder. "Brother, you have such achievements at such a young age. In the future, it's not impossible for you to achieve the void martial stage. I will work with you." The two were overjoyed and started drinking that 9 refinements yin yang spiritual serum. You take a sip, I take a sip. They drank until there was nothing left. The thing that the 9 Palace faction viewed as a treasure had been swallowed by these two like tea. Apparently, Shang Yi was in high spirits. After he talked with Qin Wushuang about the anecdotes of the Red Dragon Empire, he also asked some questions about the Great Luo Empire. After learning that Qin Wushuang was going to participate in the friendly competition between the 3 empires, he nodded and suddenly took out an item from his storage pouch. As soon as this item was taken out, the entire underground karst cave erupted with light. It was as if a resplendent pearl had broken out of the ground and shone brightly in all directions. One did not even need to look at it to know that this item was extraordinary. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 274. Qin Wushuang took a closer look and saw that it was a folding bow like autumn water. When this bow was folded, it did not look eye-catching. However, as Shang Yi pulled the bow open completely, Qin Wushuang could not help but draw a breath of cold air and blurted out, "Good bow. My teacher obtained this bow through a fortuitous encounter. Even the people of the 9 Palace did not know he had it. He passed it to me, but my temperament is not compatible with this bow. Thus, I have only used my teacher's other bow to fight enemies. Compared to this graceful spiritual bow, the piercing cloud bow that I use is insignificant. And I hit it off at first sight and became sworn brothers. I will give you this graceful spiritual bow as a souvenir." Qin Wushuang was stunned and could not accept it. Just by looking at the appearance of this bow, one would know that it was not ordinary. Shang Yi's situation was even more dangerous than his. How could he take someone else's treasure? Not to mention, it was something left by his teacher. He could not accept it because he was reminded of his feelings. Seeing Qin Wushuang acting this way, Shang Yi's expression became serious. "Brother, could it be that you feel that the thing in my hand is tainted your hand?" Qin Wushuang immediately said, "Brother Shang, I did not mean it this way. This is something left by your teacher. How could I take someone else's treasure? Besides, you are in a dangerous situation and need a divine weapon to protect yourself." Shang Yi shook his head. "The graceful spiritual bow is not compatible with my temperament. If I use it, it will not be as effective as the piercing cloud bow I have always used. You see, I used the piercing cloud bow to kill your people. If I had used the graceful spiritual bow, I am afraid it would not have worked. As for my teacher's belongings, there are many. There is no harm in giving this to you. Most importantly, my teacher had always hoped that this bow would have a true son of heaven. My teacher also joked that I am not suitable for this bow. Thus, giving it to you is just fulfilling my teacher's last wish. You are only 18 years old and already have such talent. If in the future you can attain the void martial Tao and the graceful spiritual bow becomes famous, wouldn't it fulfill my teacher's wish?" With these words, Qin Wushuang could not decline and could only accept it. "Such a generous gift. I am truly terrified." Shang Yi sighed and said, "I can only be at ease if you accept it. What if one day I am chased by those bastards from the 9 Palace faction and I accidentally fall into their trap? Wouldn't this treasure be theirs? It's better for you to have it than for those bastards to take it." However, Qin Wushuang said, "Big brother, As long as you are careful along the way and avoid the eyes and ears, the Nine Palace will not be able to find you in this vast sea of people. However, there is one thing. Before you have mastered the technique, you cannot provoke the Nine Palace. Shang Yi nodded, and, after experiencing this pursuit, I still have this bit of awareness. Where there is life, there is hope. Right now, I'm not strong enough. Fighting with them is just asking for trouble. Fortunately, the law enforcement group they had sent out was only at the middle stage. If an advanced stage warrior had stepped out, I am afraid I would not have gotten this place and would not have gotten to know someone like you. Speaking of which, it was the will of the heavens. This is a sign that the heavens have not abandoned me. Since the heavens are so fond of me, I naturally have to cherish my life even more. That's right. Qin Wushuang nodded. Shang Yi leaned against the wall of the karst cave and listened for a while. Then he turned around and said, "Those two groups of people should have arrived nearby. After searching for a while, they must have thought we had escaped far away. Brother, let's part here. The Tianxian land is as vast as the open sea. As long as I'm not dead, U.S. brothers will reunite one day." Haha, isn't it just wandering the world? This is the stage I am pursuing. To travel 10,000 miles and comprehend the immortal path. Shang Yi was free and easy and did not show any pretentious attitude. Initially, Qin Wushuang wanted to persuade Shang Yi to join the Stargaze Palace. However, he thought that with Shang Yi's personality, he would not ask for protection. Secondly, Qin Wushuang was not a higher-up in the Stargaze Palace and did not dare to make the decision. Thus, he could only give up. However, Qin Wushuang did not leave immediately. Instead, he said, "Anyways, I'm not in a rush to leave. It will not be too late for me to leave after your injuries have healed completely." After thinking about it, Shang Yi did not refuse. "Okay, I will use this chance to teach you the secrets of using the spiritual bow and arrow. For this bow and arrow, if my teacher was not an expert, I would not know there's so many things to learn." That night, the two of them practiced for the entire night inside the karst cave. Fortunately, the 9 reversal sun pill had astonishing effects. After a day and a night, Shang Yi's internal injuries had completely healed. He had regained his vigor and vitality. In the early morning of the next day, after the two of them had investigated the enemy's situation and made sure it was safe, they went their separate ways. Indeed, Shang Yi had a full body of good equipment. Qin Wushuang watched him leave like a gust of wind and disappear from the canyon. After standing for a moment, Qin Wushuang regained his senses and passed through the sky-breaking canyon. He headed west towards the imperial capital of the Heavenly Lake Empire. Along the way, Qin Wushuang only took small paths and tried to keep a low profile. In less than a day, he had passed through the territory of the subordinate countries and arrived at the territory of the Heavenly Lake Empire. After entering the territory of the empire, Qin Wushuang slowed down his footsteps. He estimated that his colleague from the Stargaze Palace should not have arrived this quickly. He had arrived at least half a month earlier. Thus, there is still half a month before the first day of July. He decided to get to know this Heavenly Lake Empire, the archenemy of the Great Luo Empire. While he was walking, horses kept galloping along the road. They whistled and seemed to be in a rush. Initially, Qin Wushuang did not think much of it. However, along the way, there was a continuous stream of people rushing forward as if there was some great event waiting for them to catch up. Qin Wushuang was not curious. He only walked at a neither fast nor slow pace. When he arrived at the Heavenly Lake Empire, he did not want to cause too much trouble. After all, he was a national scholar of the Great Luo Empire. Once he caused trouble, there would always be unforeseen troubles. "Hurry up. If we are late, we will not make it." Yes, it's a rare opportunity. The archaic mystery sect had sent a representative to gather all the heroes. It would be a pity if we did not go. Along the way, Qin Wushuang kept hearing similar words. Among these words, there were also mentions of the 100 Battles Mountain, Hidden Dragon Field. Qin Wushuang paid attention to this place. He walked to the market and asked a waiter. He learned that this 100 Battles Mountain was a famous mountain in the Heavenly Lake Empire. It was 200 miles south of here. Recently, many heroes had gone to that 100 Battles mountain to participate in some kind of gathering. Sir, I only know this much. If you want to know more, you'll have to find someone else. After that waiter had finished speaking, he turned around to serve the other customers. While Qin Wushuang was thinking, suddenly, a rough voice came from outside the pub. Manager, hurry up, kill a chicken for me, prepare a plate of beef, and boil a barrel of wine. After eating, I still need to go to that hidden dragon field. Don't delay me from getting that Heavenly Lake National Scholar Command plate. Okay, please sit down. It will be served soon. The manager dragged his tone and greeted him. Heavenly Lake National Scholar Command plate? Qin Wushuang raised his eyebrow lightly. What was this Heavenly Lake Empire doing? Among these martial artists, there were very few Upper Sky Realm warriors. Only a few Pre-Sky Realm warriors were messing around. Could they really give out some Heavenly Lake National Scholar Command plate? Qin Wushuang did not believe it, just like how he had the Great Luo National Scholar Command plate. For such thing, even Upper Sky Realm warrior might not be able to get it. There were many Upper Sky disciples in the Stargaze Palace. However, most likely, only the exceptional core disciples had received the Great Luo National Scholar Command plate. It seems that this so-called gathering is a false rumor. If the Heavenly Lake National Scholar Command plate is so worthless, then it would not be called a National Scholar Command plate. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang sneered and did not pay attention to it. Anyways, if he turned south, it would be the road to the imperial capital. He would pass by that place. He would know the truth by taking a look. After finishing the food, Qin Wushuang left immediately. That 100 Battles mountain was 200 miles away from here. To Qin Wushuang, if he used all his strength, it would not take long for him to travel 200 miles. However, Qin Wushuang was not in a rush to get there. Naturally, he took his time and bought a fine horse. Then, he rode the horse forward leisurely. When he arrived at the 100 Battles mountain, people kept appearing at each intersection, and they were all heading towards the 100 Battles mountain. Qin Wushuang got off the horse and walked slowly. In a moment, he saw groups of people crowding around a wide plateau. Under the call of the 100 Battles mountain, there were at least 1,000 people. It was extremely lively. Qin Wushuang looked at it from afar and saw two long banners with words written on the left and right side. Punching the shrimp soldiers and crab generals of the dragon and tiger sect, kicking the monsters of the Stargaze Palace. On the horizontal scroll, dominating the three empires. Qin Wushuang could not help but laugh. These banners were as superficial as they could be. However, it had stimulated the nerves of these martial artists from the Heavenly Lake Empire and made their blood boil. Qin Wushuang was rather curious. Did the Archaic Mysteries sect instruct them to do this, or did these martial artists come up with it? Regardless, when these banners were placed here, their style had dropped a lot. Qin Wushuang glanced and saw a few Upper Sky Realm martial artists among them. Only these so-called Upper Sky Realm warriors were only ordinary existences. They were not at the core level. Just when he was about to leave, suddenly, one of the Upper Sky Realm warriors said, "Everyone, this Hidden Dragon Plateau gathering is to gather elite warriors from the people. Hidden Dragon, as the name suggests, is to let all the hidden dragons come out. This time, a criminal has escaped into the Heavenly Lake Empire. This criminal had escaped from the Red Dragon Empire. Now, the Red Dragon Empire has sent a request for help to the Heavenly Lake Empire. They are calling on all the powerful warriors of the Heavenly Lake Empire to work together and help the Red Dragon Empire to capture this criminal. Those who succeed will be given the Heavenly Lake Empire's National Scholar Badge and enjoy the benefits of a National Scholar." When Qin Wushuang heard these words, he could not help but stop. This gathering was for Big Brother Shangyi. When that law enforcement group from the Red Dragon Empire saw their friends getting killed, they knew that it would be difficult to deal with the situation. Thus, they did not hesitate to ask for help from the Heavenly Lake Empire. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang could not help but feel somewhat worried. If the elite warriors from the Archaic Mysteries sect stepped out, Big Brother Shang, you would be in some danger. However, He estimated that, Big Brother Shang, you should have already left the Heavenly Lake Empire. Even if the people of the Red Dragon Empire asked for help from the archaic mysteries sect, it would take them a few days. With these few days, he would have enough time to escape. Although he thought this way, he was still somewhat worried. He decided to stay and ask around. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 275. Qin Wushuang stopped his footsteps and dodged to the side. He started to observe with rapt attention. Looking at these useless people around him, clearly, they were not existences that could threaten Big Brother Shangyi. If the archaic mysteries sect was behind this matter, they would not act like a child's play. Perhaps this place was only a shell to attract attention. Perhaps there were other mysteries within this 100 Battles mountain. After a moment of observation, one of the upper sky warriors stood on top of the built-high platform. Everyone, we have set up this high platform. Anyone who can win against any of the challengers will be qualified to participate in this capture operation. Among you, if you're not an upper sky, it's best not to try. At this time, a black shadow scuttled onto the platform and shouted, "Let me challenge." "Who are you?" That person who spoke on the high platform asked in a low voice. "You don't even know who I am. I am not here for some Heavenly Lake National Scholar command plate. If I win against one of you, you will immediately remove this banner." That person spoke with a rough voice as he pointed to that banner with the words, "Kicking the demons of the Stargaze Palace." Then, he said in a low, muffled voice, "It's your internal matter if you want to show off. Why are you insulting the Stargaze Palace of the Great Luo?" This person was dressed in blue robes and had thick eyebrows and big eyes. However, he had a rough personality. Naturally, he was furious when he saw this banner. If he were not inside the Heavenly Lake Empire, he would have already torn that banner into pieces. "This way, you are a disciple of the Stargaze Palace of the Great Luo." "I am not a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, but I am a freelance martial artist of the Great Luo. I will not allow you to insult the Stargaze Palace." That man in blue robes scolded with righteous indignation. He shook both of his hands, and a giant axe appeared in his hand. Under the sunlight, the shiny blade of the axe appeared exceptionally cold. "Who will block my 3 axe strikes?" This guy roared. That person on the stage retreated into the back of the tent. After a moment, a person walked out. As soon as this person walked out, his whole body emitted a sharp Xiantian aura. His entire temperament was like a sharp sword, giving people a kind of dense killing intent. When Qin Wushuang saw this person, he secretly paid attention and thought to himself, "It seems like this matter really has something to do with Tianji sect. This person who walked out is definitely not ordinary. He should be a core disciple of Tianji sect." Even though Qin Wushuang did not notice this person's strength, it still caused Qin Wushuang to secretly pay attention. Just how many other experts from the Celestial Arcanum sect were hiding behind that curtain? Qin Wushuang looked at the blue-robed man. He tightly gripped the big axe in his hand and pushed his spiritual power. His blue robe was torn apart by the spiritual power, revealing his strong muscles. He looked quite imposing. This person was protecting the dignity of the Great Luo Empire. Although he was in the territory of the Heavenly Lake Empire, he still had some courage to challenge the Great Luo Empire. At that moment, he also secretly paid attention to the situation, hoping that this person would not be at a disadvantage. Being in a foreign land, Qin Wushuang could not help but feel somewhat impressed when he saw the elite warriors from his own country fighting for the dignity of their country. That young man who had walked out from behind the curtain stood there empty-handed and said with a smile, "That man, what is your name? Since you're not a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, why are you yelling here?" "I am Cui Nyo, a freelance martial artist from the Great Luo Empire. Today, when I passed by here, I saw that your banner had gone too far. It will make me laugh my head off. You are so shallow." "Cui Nyo," the young man laughed mockingly. "I hope you have some strength. If you only have the ability to boast, most likely you would have come up alive and gone down dead." Cui Nyo roared. "In the end, who is boasting? Let's see who is the one boasting. Roar. With a loud roar, Chui Nyo held the axe with both hands. He jumped up with both feet and twisted his body forward like a bow. Then he slashed down with the axe from the sky. It had the temperament to break rivers and mountains. Naturally, the temperament of a battle between upper sky warriors was astonishing. Instantly, the power of this slash caused the surrounding airflow to surge up. With a whoosh, it rolled up a cloud of dust. As soon as this giant axe slashed down, only a crescent-shaped white light flashed in the sky. Even the sky seemed to have been cut open. With a whoosh, it emitted an ear-piercing explosion sound. In the next moment, that young man twitched the corner of his mouth, and a trace of cold mockery overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Like a whirlwind, he rolled his body and suddenly disappeared from the place. Even though Chui Nyo had not hit the target with one slash, he was not dispirited. Instead, he turned his hand and slashed 3 times. Like snowflakes, the 3 slashes formed an attack arc and slashed back again. Rays of light shot in all directions and blinded people's eyes. Qin Wushuang saw that this Chui Nyo's axe technique only followed the masculine path. Although it was ferocious, he would be at a disadvantage when encountering an elite warrior with good body movements. Indeed, before Qin Wushuang had finished thinking, that young man appeared on the left side of Chui Nyo. Unknowingly, a glove had appeared on his hand. Kacha! The glove grabbed in the air, and his 5 fingers suddenly grabbed 5 strong winds that condensed in his substance and bit towards Chui Nyo's wrist. This peck was actually like the sharp beak of a fierce bird, fast and fierce. Chui Nyo had never imagined that this young man's movement would be so fast. It was so fast that it almost made him lose his basic judgment. Just now, he had turned his hand and slashed 3 times. He had clearly attacked the right side that the young man had retreated to. How could this person actually appear on his left side in the blink of an eye? Chui Nyo's left hand loosened and a fist smashed towards the 5 strong winds. His right hand waved the axe and once again chopped towards the young man's head. At this moment, a golden light suddenly flashed from the young man's right hand. A golden chain shot out from his hand and directly wrapped around Chui Nyo's axe. Kacha! The sound of metal colliding was ear-piercing. The two of them urged their spiritual energy, and their weapons collided. Tragic sparks sputtered in all directions. The golden chain in the young man's hand wrapped around Chui Nyo's giant axe and completely controlled it. His body suddenly followed the binding force and ran at high speed on the stage. His body coiled and spun around Chui Nyo like a whirlwind. Chui Nyo only felt a blur before his eyes. Suddenly, the young man's body twisted and his legs directly kicked towards Chui Nyo's chest. The speed was so fast that it was like a gust of wind that didn't give Chui Nyo any time to react. Bang! Chui Nyo's body flew high into the air and flew far off the stage. A giant axe was swung out by the young man with the golden chain. It closely followed the momentum of Chui Nyo's flight and followed at an even faster speed. Ah! The surrounding audience all exclaimed softly. The momentum of this axe was obviously to cut Chui Nyo in half in the air. This method was clearly to take Chui Nyo's life and use Chui Nyo's weapon to kill Chui Nyo. Qin Wushuang was just about to make a move when a silver light suddenly flashed from the opposite side. An object directly hit the giant axe. The giant axe was hit by this force and actually flew back towards the stage. Its target was accurate, and its speed actually increased as it blasted towards the young man on the stage. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, those onlookers had no time to react. At this moment, Chui Nyo's body was gently supported by a floating figure. With a casual drop, he dropped to the ground steadily. Besides the injuries from the kick from that person, he did not suffer any injuries. And that giant axe spun and slashed towards the head of that young man. Its speed was incomparably fast. The expression of that young man changed drastically as he immediately lowered his head to dodge. Finally, he evaded this attack in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. That giant axe did not stop as it slashed forward at a fast speed. With a boom, It slashed onto that giant pillar with the words, "Kicking the ghosts and demons of the Stargaze Palace." With a loud bang, this giant pillar was cut into two halves. It broke in the middle, and the scroll was also crushed into pieces by the wind from the axe. It turned into pieces and flew away like a butterfly. Qin Wushuang saw the face of this person. It was Zhao Muji, a disciple of the third palace master of the Stargaze Palace. Why did he come early? Qin Wushuang was also slightly surprised. Zhao Muji grabbed the magistrate brush that had shot out a moment ago and put it into his sleeve. He glanced at that stage with a cold expression and said with a disdainful tone, "Even if the Heavenly Lake Empire is bored, they should not be bored to this extent, right? Could it be that the current archaic mysteries sect only has this little bit of power and only wrote 2 scrolls to inflate their ego?" Among the core disciples of the Stargaze Palace, Zhao Muji was at least in the top 5. Although he did not enter the top 5 in the last core ranking competition, his strength was still there. Naturally, he was annoyed when he saw this scroll. His move had killed several birds with one stone. He had saved the person and destroyed that scroll. Naturally, Chuan Yo, who was saved by him, was deeply grateful. "Thank you for saving my life. My name is Chuan Yo. How should I address you? Are you an elite warrior from the Great Luo Empire?" Zhao Muji's expression softened slightly as he nodded. "Chuan Yo, you are good." Although it was only a few short words, it made Chuan Yo feel endless joy. Although this Chuan Yo was a righteous person, he was a person who was good at observing people's expressions. When he saw Zhao Muji's actions and temperament, he knew that this person was not ordinary. For sure, he must be an exceptional figure in the Great Luo Empire. At the moment, he laughed. "With my little skills, I have embarrassed the Great Luo Empire. If you had not helped me, I would not have escaped this bloody disaster." Just when Zhao Muji was about to speak, that curtain was pulled open and another person walked out. This person had a headscarf tied around his head and his long hair danced in the wind. With a cold expression, he looked at Zhao Muji. "You are a disciple of the Stargaze Palace?" Zhao Muji did not show the slightest fear as he said proudly, "Zhao Muji of the Stargaze Palace." "Zhao Muji?" The other party twitched the corner of his mouth. "I've never heard of you. I only heard that the Stargaze Palace has a Wei Yi who is exceptional. I also heard that Qin Wushuang is also good. However, he is short-lived." As soon as Zhao Muji heard these words, his face turned cold. Qin Wushuang had always been a pain in Zhao Muji's heart. During that battle at the Green Jade Mountain, Qin Wushuang had saved Zhao Muji's life. Zhao Muji admired him greatly. Unexpectedly, that battle had become their farewell. After half a year, Zhao Muji still could not walk out from that blow. This time, he had left the Stargaze Palace early because he wanted to use this opportunity to relax and get rid of the depression in his heart. When he heard this person cursing Qin Wushuang, his expression changed drastically. "Who are you? And you think you're qualified to gossip about junior brother Qin? Come, come, come. Today I will teach you a lesson. Let's see how much power the younger generation of the archaic mysteries sect have." That person sneered. "I couldn't ask for more. Only, under my blade, I will never kill nameless people." Zhao Muji knew that this person had done it deliberately to provoke him. How could he fall for it? He jumped with the tip of his foot and floated up to the stage. In a flash, he held the 2 magistrate brushes in his hands. "Just because you insulted junior brother Qin, today I will let your blood splatter within 3 steps." There was a trace of coldness in Zhao Muji's tone. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang could not help but feel a warmth in his chest. This was what it meant to be a fellow disciple. Even if there were conflicts within the sect, after all, to fight a tiger, you need brothers. To go into battle, you need father and son. Didn't Zhao Muji perfectly express the meaning of being under the same sect as him at this moment? When he thought here, a wave of warmth surged in Qin Wushuang's heart. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please log on to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 276. Zhao Muji from the Stargaze Palace. I've heard of this person. He is the head disciple of the third palace master. I heard that he is exceptional among the younger generation of the Stargaze Palace. He is definitely one of the top 5. No wonder. With such exceptional skills, it seems that this battle is going to be a good one. Those people who were watching the show started to talk and point at each other. Qin Wushuang secretly observed that the two figures on the stage were already engaged in a fierce battle. Although this man with the red headscarf had a strange appearance, he did have good skills. Indeed, he was on par with Zhao Muji. From Qin Wushuang's perspective, this person should be one of the top few core disciples in the archaic mystery sect. Or else, he would not have the skills to be on par with Zhao Muji. Haha. Senior Brother Sherfilan is not someone to be trifled with. No wonder he is one of the top 5 core disciples in the archaic mysteries sect. How could this Zhao Muji resist Senior Brother Sher? Yes, for this friendly competition, the archaic mysteries sect will surely be number 1. What great luo! They will only be at the bottom if they come to the Heavenly Lake Empire to participate in the competition. Haha. Since these people had spoken these words, without a doubt, they were from the Heavenly Lake Empire. Now, Qin Wushuang was rather curious. Since this arena was placed here, was it recruiting elite warriors to chase after Shangyi? Or was it to show off to the Vermilion and the Great Luo Empire? Was it to build one path on the surface and another in the dark? While Qin Wushuang was thinking, the battle between the two on the stage had become even more vicious. Although Zhao Muji appeared to be a scholarly person, he was rather proud and swift. Currently, he was filled with anger and fought even harder. The two magistrate brushes danced in the air like silver snakes dancing in the mountains. The entire sky was filled with the power of his brushes. Although that Sherfilan was also exceptional, he could not help but feel surprised when he saw Zhao Muji's crazy fighting style. In the first moment, Zhao Muji had taken over his temperament, and he had fallen into a disadvantage. Whoosh! Each move of Zhao Muji's magistrate brushes carried powerful hidden power. Each move was aimed at the opponent's vital points. Even though Sherfilan was good, but Zhao Muji had taken the upper hand, so he had no time to counterattack. Zhao Muji used 2 weapons, and his attack frequency was fast. His attacks were basically fast, accurate, and ruthless. Therefore, once Zhao Muji gained the upper hand, it would be very difficult to win this battle. Ever since the battle at the Green Jade Mountain, Zhao Muji had been working hard, and his cultivation had improved a lot compared to half a year ago. Therefore, his pair of magistrate brushes could be said to be unconstrained and unconstrained. Bullets that looked like bullets from an automatic rifle kept coming at them. Sherfilan retreated again and again. Unable to retreat any further, he was already at the edge of the arena. Zhao Muji did not give him a chance to catch his breath at all. He continued to follow up and snatch the magistrate's pen like 2 dragons playing with a pearl. Poochie! A surge of spiritual power shot out and hit Sherfilan's shoulder. Pooh! Blood splashed as Sherfilan's body fell backwards. At this moment, a white figure shot out from the curtain and caught Sherfilan's body. Then, he flicked his sleeve casually. A strong wind blew out from that sleeve. Like an invisible wall of air, it created a powerful counterattack and swept Zhao Muji away. Swept by this giant wind, Zhao Muji did not have the slightest power to resist. Directly, he retreated a dozen steps and looked at that white figure with shock. That person pushed Sherfilan behind the curtain and sized Zhao Muji up with a cold look. Qin Wushuang looked at this person. He had red lips and white teeth. Clearly, his face still looked somewhat immature. His figure was strangely short, and his face was like a baby's. However, there was a little bit of black stubble around his lips. His appearance was neither fish nor fowl. It gave people a strange feeling. Disciple of the Stargaze Palace? This strange kid spoke. Stop with the nonsense. Who are you? Zhao Muji sized this strange kid from head to toe. That strange kid laughed strangely. Suddenly, his face sank. My name is Devil Boy. Have you heard of me? Devil Boy. Zhao Muji's face turned cold. Never heard of you. Devil Boy's face sank. Never heard of me? I hate ignorant people the most. Since you have never heard of me, then accept your fate. Those bastards who don't know my name, there's only one ending, and that is death. Devil Boy gave a strange laugh and opened his hands. Instantly, a pair of sharp claws grew from the fingertips of his hands. The sharp claws emitted eerie lights. Just by looking at their appearance, one could see that they were terrifying. Humph, you are playing tricks. Inwardly, Zhao Muji was also restraining his fear. However, on the surface, he appeared swift and fierce and would not lose to this Devil Boy in terms of temperament. A moment ago, this Devil Boy had swept him away with a casual wave of his sleeve. Indeed, his strength was far above Zhao Muji's. He should be a middle-stage warrior. However, among the younger generation of the Archaic Mysteries sect, everyone knew that there was only one middle-stage warrior. And that middle-stage warrior was not this Devil Boy before him. Humph. Once again, Devil Boy's expression turned eerie as he said, I hate it when people say that I am playing tricks. Kid, remember, I am Devil Boy, a core disciple of the Archaic Mysteries sect. When you go to the underworld, don't remember my name wrong. As soon as he had finished speaking, suddenly, Devil Boy twisted his body and drilled into the ground. This drilling did not create a giant hole in the ground. Instead, he had disappeared from the stage. This method made the spectators below the stage burst into thunderous cheers. On the other hand, Chuan Yo, the freelance martial artist from the Great Luo Empire, had a change of expression. Senior brother Zhao Muji, retreat quickly. This person knows sorcery. Inwardly, Zhao Muji was also somewhat surprised when he saw Devil Boy had disappeared. Inwardly, he was somewhat traumatized by such drilling methods. Initially during the battle at the Green Jade Mountain, that gray-robed Elder Chun of the Archaic Mysteries sect also excelled at such drilling methods. He was extremely difficult to deal with. They had only managed to kill that person with the combined power of Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi. Currently, this Devil Boy also knew this method. Zhao Muji's figure quickly leaped and landed on the giant pillar on the stage. Both of his hands were holding the magistrate brush. As long as he saw a trace of movement of the ley line, he would not hesitate to shoot out the magistrate brush and nail Devil Boy to death. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, large holes appeared on the ground as dirt shot up into the sky. The magistrate brush in Zhao Muji's hand shot out and attacked 2 places consecutively. Boom! The magistrate brush hit nothing but air. In an instant, Zhao Muji understood that this was Devil Boy's deceptive tactic. Just as he was about to fly over to retrieve the magistrate brush, at this moment, he felt the giant pillar under his feet suddenly split open. A ghastly claw grabbed at Zhao Muji's legs with a chilling intent. If this claw were to hit, it would directly cut off Zhao Muji's legs. Zhao Muji was indeed an expert. With a tap of his feet, he had already leaped out. His body somersaulted in the air and landed on the stage. He took the opportunity to grab the 2 magistrate brushes in his hands. At the same time, he swung his hands, and the magistrate brushes suddenly extended out from the inside. This was the magic of Zhao Muji's magistrate brushes. With a press of the mechanism, it could shoot out the brushes within the brushes and shoot out. Devil Boy was rushing over. His claws grabbed Zhao Muji's 2 magistrate brushes. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he exerted force. With a crack, the chain in the mechanism was directly broken. Kaka, kid, you want to show off with this little ability? Devil Boy's small body was like a meatball. He directly shot over. His claws emitted a cold light as he grabbed at Zhao Muji. Since Zhao Muji's debut, this pair of magistrate brushes had rarely met an opponent. Almost no one could force him to use this mechanism. He did not expect that the chain inside would be cut off at this moment. This was really unheard of. His body sank and was about to fall off the stage. For this battle, even if he were to admit defeat, he would protect himself. Only, Devil Boy was a bloodthirsty person. How could he allow Zhao Muji to escape? When he saw Zhao Muji's body retreating rapidly, he increased his speed and slashed at Zhao Muji's throat with his claws. Instantly, Chuanyo's heart jumped to his throat. If senior brother Zhao Muji got hit by this attack, he would be finished. The Stargaze Palace would lose a powerful elite warrior. Subconsciously, Zhao Muji used the remaining part of the magistrate brushes to protect his throat. Devil Boy laughed evilly. What's the use of struggling before your death? At this moment, Devil Boy suddenly felt a sharp attack coming straight at his head from the side. Whoosh! Inwardly, Devil Boy knew that something was wrong. If this attack hit him, for sure, Zhao Muji would not be able to escape death. However, if Devil Boy was hit by this power, he would also suffer severe injuries. The momentum of this attack was extremely heavy and carried a tyrannical and sharp spiritual chi movement. One could almost judge that it was a sneak attack from a middle-stage warrior. Devil Boy gave a strange cry, and his body dropped to the ground. Once again, he dropped to the ground. Zhao Muji took this opportunity to retreat more than 100 feet away. His eyes were filled with vigilance and hatred as he looked at Devil Boy. Devil Boy roared, Who? Who dares to sneak attack me? Come out if you have the guts. Qin Wushuang only smiled and did not speak. He only watched the show casually. A moment ago, he had grabbed a stone tightly and was going to make a move at the most crucial moment. And he had made his move secretly. Since Devil Boy was focused on dealing with Zhao Muji, how could he see that it was Qin Wushuang who had made the move? And since Qin Wushuang was surrounded by mediocre warriors, they could not see through Qin Wushuang's background. With lingering fear, Chuanyo walked next to Zhao Muji and said in a low voice, Senior brother Zhao, let's take a step back. This Devil Boy is extremely vicious. For sure he is not at the level of a core disciple. Zhao Muji nodded and was about to retreat. That Devil Boy laughed evilly. You want to leave? Is there such a good thing? Chuanyo said reluctantly, Sir, even if we've already lost in the arena, we should know when to stop. Your Tianji sect is after all a big sect. Even if it's a sparring match, there should be a limit to it, right? Devil Boy shouted, What competition? That's what they do. I, Devil Boy, only like to kill. I don't know what a competition is. This Xiao guy, I don't like him. If I don't kill him, I won't be able to sleep or eat at night. This person's style was extremely unreasonable, causing Chuanyo to be speechless. Zhao Muji pulled Chuanyo to the side and said in a low voice, Devil Boy, is your name among the archaic mysteries sect's core disciples? Could it be that you are one of the archaic mysteries sect's elders in disguise, but claim to be a core disciple? If you want to bully the weak, you don't need to cover up your mistakes, right? Devil Boy said eerily, Bully the weak? I'm only 16 this year. Could you be younger than me? 16 years old? Hearing these words, even Qin Wushuang, who was on the side, was stunned. P.S. Thank you all, thank you. Raising one place, today's update has been set. Although it is very likely that I will be counter-exploded immediately, as long as it has exploded, Li Tian will not go back on his words. Whether or not there will be a sixth explosion will depend on whether I can reach 850 monthly votes by the end of today's update. If you guys work harder, Li Tian will work harder too. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 277. This Devil Boy was only 16 years old, and he had such powerful strength. Could it be he also had the natural spiritual roots? Almost at the same time, Qin Wushuang and Zhao Muji had the same question. Qin Wushuang asked himself that he had relied on the spiritual power baptism at the second circle of the 7 deadly formation arrays to transform his body to become a middle-stage warrior. It had allowed him to not worry about his body being unable to withstand the impact of the spiritual chi and affecting his training progress. Plus, he had the miraculous power of Deep North to help him absorb the spiritual chi and achieve twice the result with half the effort. Moreover, this multiplier wasn't just double, but 5 or 10 times. Despite this fact, he was already 18 years old this year. He had only reached the middle stage of the spiritual martial force. However, this Devil Boy was only 16 years old and had the strength of a middle stage warrior. Even if he had the natural spiritual roots, like senior brother Wei Yi, he had entered the Stargaze Palace 17 years ago. Although he was only an 8 or 9-year-old kid when he entered the palace, he was now 25 or 26 years old. And senior brother Wei, he had only entered the middle stage 3 or 4 years ago. In other words, if this devil boy was truly 16 years old, he had entered the middle stage 6 or 7 years faster than senior brother Wei Yi and 2 years faster than Qin Wushuang. In the upper sky world, 1 or 2 years of difference was not outstanding. However, above 5 years, it was a big difference. Usually, when elite warriors reach the later stages, the difference of 5 or 10 years would widen and differentiate themselves. When Devil Boy saw that Zhao Muji was confused, he was also extremely proud. He laughed strangely. Although I like to kill people, I would never make up lies. Suddenly, his face sank. So, just accept your fate. Qin Wushuang knew that if he did not step out, once this devil boy finished his words, as a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, Zhao Muji would not run away without caring about his image. If he fell into this person's trap, it would not end well. Instantly, he picked up a stone and shot it at the other banner on the giant pillar. Boom! With a flick of his finger, the banner was completely shot down. The banner with the words "Punch the shrimp soldiers and crab generals of the dragon and tiger sect" also fell down with a loud bang. Qin Wushuang hissed, "Devil boy, I don't like you. If you have the guts, let's fight." Qin Wushuang let out a strange cry in a muffled voice. Then, he lifted his body and dashed away. Devil Boy's personality was the one that could not be provoked. When he heard Qin Wushuang's words and saw him make a move, he immediately remembered the person who had sneakily attacked him. He roared angrily, "It's you, bastard! I will kill you first." Without turning his head, he roared, "Zhao Muji, just you wait. Sooner or later, I will teach you a lesson. You better not meet me in the friendly competition." Devil Boy's voice gradually faded away. Apparently, he had chased far away in an instant. Zhao Muji snorted, but did not say anything. Looking at the direction Devil Boy left in, he could not help but feel a little absent-minded. That person just now should be the one who ambushed Devil Boy in a moment of desperation to save his life. From his actions, he should be an elite warrior from the Dragon and Tiger sect. However, if he was an elite warrior from the Dragon and Tiger sect, he should be watching from the side and gloating. How could he be so kind as to save Zhao Muji? What made Zhao Muji feel the strangest was that in that instant, he almost had an illusion. He had felt a little familiar feeling from that person. That feeling almost made him think that the person who had saved him was junior brother Qin Wushuang. However, junior brother Qin Wushuang had already met with misfortune at the Green Jade Mountain. How could he appear here? Initially, after Tan Zhongqi had reported the news of Qin Wushuang's survival to Zhuo Buqiuan, these two palace masters had discussed and decided to keep it secret. Firstly, it was to keep the secret to the end. Secondly, with Qin Wushuang gone, it would be a good way to encourage the other disciples to train harder and prepare for the upcoming friendly competition. After all, if Qin Wushuang was gone, the pressure he had to bear would fall on the other disciples. Thus, the Zhao Muji did not know that Qin Wushuang was still alive. After a moment, he shook his head with a bitter smile. Inwardly, he thought that he was hallucinating. How could that junior brother Qin be alive? Senior brother Zhao, what are you thinking? Cui Niu, the freelance martial artist from the great Luo Empire, asked carefully. Nothing. Zhao Muji smiled lightly and said, Cui Niu, you are good. Cui Niu smiled innocently and rubbed his palms excitedly. It was his honor to receive a compliment from a disciple of the Stargaze Palace. Senior brother Zhao, it's all thanks to you for saving my life today. Or else, haha, that's nothing. It's just a small matter. Besides, you're on the stage for the Stargaze Palace and the great Luo Empire. Of course, I cannot watch with folded arms. Besides, if that person had not helped, not to mention you, even I would not have survived today. Cui Niu stuck out his tongue. That bastard is truly abnormal. I just don't know his background. Zhao Muji said lightly, regardless of his background, as long as he is a core disciple of the Archaic Mysteries sect, someone will take care of him. Although I cannot defeat him, it does not mean that no one in the Stargaze Palace can stop him. Yes, your senior brother Wei He is exceptional. You should be able to take care of this devil boy. Chuanyo welcomed him. Zhao Muji waved his hand. Okay, let's go. There's nothing worth staying in this devilish place. It's only a trap set by the Archaic Mysteries sect. That's right. The Archaic Mysteries sect had set up such an abnormal devil boy here and wrote those two shameless banners. They were clearly provoking the Great Luo and the Vermilion Empire. Zhao Muji gave a long sigh. I just don't know if that person is an elite warrior from the Vermilion Empire. Chuanyo said, he should be, or else, why would he shoot down the other banners? On the other hand, Qin Wushuang had lured away Devil Boy and was running towards the outside at a fast speed. He decided to compete with this Devil Boy. If he could lure him to a dark place and fight with him, it would be interesting. If he could take this opportunity to get rid of Devil Boy, that would be even more ideal. However, although Qin Wushuang had such thoughts, he did not dare to be careless. After all, this Devil Boy was an elite warrior, and they were in the territory of the Heavenly Lake Empire. Now, with the disturbance caused by Big Brother Shangyi, would those elite warriors from the Heavenly Lake Empire move to curry favor with the Red Dragon Empire? If those elite warriors at the sect leader level made a move, of course, Qin Wushuang would stay away from them. Or else, it would not be good if he was targeted by those people. When Qin Wushuang thought here, he started to compete with Devil Boy in terms of speed. This Devil Boy also had a belly full of anger. A moment ago, Qin Wushuang's sneak attack had caused him to fail to kill Zhao Muji. His hatred for the sneak attacker had even surpassed his hatred for Zhao Muji. Thus, he left Zhao Muji behind and chased after Qin Wushuang. This Devil Boy was indeed only 16 years old. He had only shown his talent in the Celestial Arcanum sect in recent years and had been secretly cultivated as a chess piece. He was prepared to display his invincible prowess in the friendly competition of the Three Kingdoms and win by surprise. Naturally, this Devil Boy did not have the natural spiritual roots. Since ancient times, those with the natural spiritual roots were favored by God. Regardless of talent or bone structure, they were outstanding. It was impossible for him to have such a strange appearance. Although this Devil Boy did not have the natural spiritual roots, he had the mutated spiritual roots. This mutated spiritual root was different from the natural spiritual roots and also different from normal martial artists. To put it simply, it was a twisted and abnormal spiritual root, just like the genetic mutation on Earth in Qin Wushuang's former life, although it was rare to find one in 10 million. However, once such a person appeared, he would either be a trash or a mutated genius. And this Devil Boy happened to be a training genius, and a very abnormal one. His training speed could be said to be abnormal. When he was discovered by the Archaic Mysteries sect, this kid was already 10 years old. In a short 6 years, not only had he entered the upper sky realm, he had also entered the middle stage of the spiritual martial force. This made everyone in the Archaic Mysteries sect feel as if they had found a treasure. Naturally, they valued this Devil Boy greatly. While they brainwashed him, they trained him to become the most outstanding among the younger generation of core disciples. Since Devil Boy had a simple mind, he was adopted and trained by the Archaic Mysteries sect. Naturally, he would follow their lead. He would work for the Archaic Mysteries sect. This time, the higher-ups of the Archaic Mysteries sect had ordered them to set up this arena. Firstly, they wanted to provoke them. Secondly, they wanted to use Devil Boy's murderous personality to kill a few more elite warriors from the Stargaze or the Dragon and Tiger sect. For such killing on the arena, even if they wanted to pursue the matter, they would have an excuse. However, on the arena of the friendly competition, there were clear rules. They would only fight and not fight to the death. Unless both parties agreed to a life and death battle, they could not use any excuse to kill. The Heavenly Lake Empire had set up such an arena to target the Stargaze Palace. After all, they still could not let go of that battle at the Green Jade Mountain, since they had suffered such a great loss. Of course, they wanted to use this disgraceful opportunity to kill a few core disciples from the Stargaze Palace to vent their anger. Thus, Zhao Muji had bumped into the muzzle of the spear. If Qin Wushuang had not stepped out, Zhao Muji would not have escaped from Devil Boy's evil claws. On the other hand, Qin Wushuang had led Devil Boy back. He had taken the same path earlier. Now, he was only following the same path back. The reason why he was going this way was because Qin Wushuang was familiar with the terrain after he had walked through it. If he were to go somewhere else, it would be disadvantageous for him since he was unfamiliar with the terrain. Devil Boy chased after him relentlessly. For all these years, he had been spoiled at the archaic mystery sect and had developed an arrogant and domineering personality. He did not think that anyone from the younger generation could beat him. During the chase, he also judged that his opponent was only a middle-stage warrior. Thus, he chased after him with even more confidence and without any fear. After a day and night of chasing, Qin Wushuang had led Devil Boy to a surging river. On this river, there was an extremely dense forest. Qin Wushuang decided to set the location here. When Devil Boy saw Qin Wushuang's figure enter the forest, he stopped for a moment and cried out, "Coward, you have lured me here. Could it be you have some evil plan? Could it be that I'm scared of you?" After he had finished speaking, he drilled his head into the ground. He did not take the normal path, but chose to travel underground. In this way, if the other party wanted to plot against them, it would be very difficult for them to plan their plans. I will continue tonight. After 5 p.m., I will look at the monthly votes. As soon as it reaches 850, I will add another chapter. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 278. Qin Wushuang had the experience of fighting at the Green Jade Mountain. Naturally, he had some experience in dealing with experts of the underground. He expected that if Devil Boy wanted to enter this forest, he would certainly use the underground technique. It was impossible for him to enter brazenly. That would be equivalent to turning himself into a live target for Qin Wushuang to attack. Devil Boy certainly had this little bit of brain. Qin Wushuang was like a leopard cat as he jumped left and right and hid his body among the dense leaves of a big tree. From his angle, he could clearly see all the changes in the surroundings. And Devil Boy, who was underground, could not observe Qin Wushuang. In this way, Qin Wushuang had unwittingly gained the upper hand in terms of geographical advantage. The graceful spiritual bow. Qin Wushuang's mind kept repeating these 3 words. He knew that this time, to kill Devil Boy, he could only rely on the graceful spiritual bow as a surprise weapon to win the battle. Other methods and weapons would not be enough to take down Devil Boy in a head-on confrontation. Qin Wushuang had more or less seen through Devil Boy's methods when he fought with Zhao Muji. He knew that this person's methods were not ordinary. In a head-on confrontation, even though Qin Wushuang would not lose, the hope of winning was also very slim. Overall, at most, they would be evenly matched. That kind of result would be meaningless. Qin Wushuang had lured Devil Boy here not to fight him to a draw. Since Devil Boy was so powerful and was also a core disciple, he would certainly be a great enemy in this friendly competition. If you want to make a move, he must kill this person. This was Qin Wushuang's plan. He also wanted to try and see how strong the power of the graceful spiritual bow was. The piercing cloud bow that Brother Shangyi used that day was already so powerful, and he said that this graceful spiritual bow was much more powerful than the piercing cloud bow he used. Then, what would the effect be when he used it? Qin Wushuang was looking forward to it. However, he was not in a hurry. Now was not the time to use the graceful spiritual bow. It was still far from time. Devil Boy burrowed into the ground and secretly sensed Qin Wushuang's general location. As for Qin Wushuang, he naturally knew what Devil Boy was doing. Everything was within his expectations. Devil Boy suddenly stopped. He had already locked onto the approximate range of his opponent. He laughed in his heart. His body suddenly soared into the sky, and a pair of ghost claws grabbed the sky, creating countless illusory ghost hand illusions, directly grabbing towards the big tree Qin Wushuang was hiding in. The tens of thousands of ghostly hands wreaked havoc. The sky was filled with falling leaves, fluttering in the wind. A moment ago, it was still a lush tree, but a moment later, it became a bare and withered tree. Devil Boy guffawed and shouted twice as if he was demonstrating his power. "Hide! Let's see where you can hide." After saying those words, Zhang Xian raised his hands and swept them across the room. Astral winds rolled up and gusts of chilly wind blew. It sounded like the mournful howls of ghosts from the underworld. The sharp and eerie claw power swiped horizontally and actually cut down the big tree that required two people to wrap their arms around it. Clatter! The sound of something breaking was heard. Qin Wushuang's body was as light as a swallow. He stood up a few times and jumped onto the big tree next to him. As a result, the birds in the forest flew away in panic. They were scared out of their wits and fled into the air, emitting bursts of mournful cries. Devil Boy saw that Qin Wushuang did not want to fight with him and was furious. "How long are you going to run away for?" Qin Wushuang said coldly, "If you have the ability, then come at me. Why do you care what I do?" Devil Boy laughed evilly. "All right, I have plenty of methods. Since you like to play, I will play with you." After saying those words, he raised his hands up high and withdrew the two ghost claws. He rubbed his hands together, and his hands changed again. They turned into two sharp blades that looked like wind-splitting swords. At this moment, Devil Boy's hands were like mantises waving their arms. He stepped on the ground and bounced up. The two swords chopped toward Qin Wushuang in the air. This move was the mantis knife. The two swords combined into one and drew a ghastly knife light in the air. It was bright and ferocious, as gloomy as the blood scythe in hell. The knife light was like a drill, chopping down from the middle. Its momentum seemed to be able to split the mountains. A light flashed in front of Qin Wushuang's eyes. The next moment, his body had bounced out and swept to the side again. He only had one goal, which was to make Devil Boy paralyzed. To make Devil Boy feel that he did not have the power to fight with him. Devil Boy saw Qin Wushuang's action and laughed grimly. He no longer scolded. His feet were like a toad. He jumped up and swung his arms. The knife light danced again. This time, there were two rows of swords, one on the left and one on the right. They were like two galloping Pegasi. Qin Wushuang lowered his body and fell to the ground instead. Seeing this, Devil Boy was furious. His body sank and fell down. He said angrily, "Is running away the only ability of the dragon and tiger sect?" Devil Boy was simple-minded. As expected, he took Qin Wushuang as a disciple of the dragon and tiger sect. Qin Wushuang sneered and said, "Except for your mouth, I don't see any special skills." Devil Boy was furious when he heard that. He was furious. The two swords rolled up, like snowflakes covering the top. The two swords shot out at the same time and kept cutting. The knife light crisscrossed and intertwined in the void. As if a silver bottle was broken, there were clanging sounds. The fierce knife light kept bursting out. Qin Wushuang was wrapped in the attack range and exploded wildly. Qin Wushuang knew that Devil Boy probably went berserk. Going berserk meant that he was out of control. It was an opportunity to take advantage of. Qin Wushuang had rich battle experience. Naturally, he knew this very well. Devil Boy was indeed in a berserk state. He had always been bloodthirsty. In battle, he especially liked to see the cruel appearance of the enemy's blood on the ground. Only then would he feel refreshed. But this time, when he was fighting with Qin Wushuang, he felt that he had no place to use his strength. All of his power missed every time, making him feel very frustrated and vexed. This feeling was not because he was weaker than his opponent. It was because his opponent did not want to fight with him at all. He could not use his strength at all. He wanted to tear Qin Wushuang apart piece by piece. Only then could he relieve the hatred in his heart. Suddenly, Devil Boy felt his vision blur. A torrent rushed toward him. In a daze, he realized that it was a sword aura. Devil Boy was not angry. Instead, he was happy. Counterattack? Devil Boy was overjoyed. He was not afraid of his opponent's counterattack. He was afraid that his opponent would not attack and only run away. He pulled back his swords and blocked in front of him. Clang! With a loud sound, the coagulated sword, shot by Qin Wushuang, hit the body of the sword. The sword aura shot out from the back of the sword aura, and it immediately caved in. Devil Boy sneered and waved his hand. A white light flashed on the handblade. The light overflowed. When he looked again, the caved-in place had returned to its original state. He did not know how this hand blade mutated. It had such an abnormal recovery ability. Of course, Qin Wushuang's sword was just an ordinary solid sword attack. He did not use the ice sword aura that he comprehended in the cave. The weather at the moment was very hot. In fact, it was not suitable to use the ice sword aura. Qin Wushuang knew this very well, so he did not force himself to use it. After all, that kind of method consumed too much spiritual power. Since it was not the most favorable environment, he should not force himself to use it. Otherwise, not only would the effect not be good, but it would also make him lose his rhythm. He decided to use the Violet Sun Sword. With a flash of red light, the Violet Sun Sword appeared in Qin Wushuang's hand. Devil Boy waved his double sabers and shouted, "Do you dare to fight me head-on?" Qin Wushuang was not afraid at all. "I let you win at the beginning. Do you think I'm afraid of a dwarf like you?" Devil Boy had a mutated spiritual root. His strange body and face had always been his hatred. Walking on the road, whoever looked at him would be killed by him. Not to mention Qin Wushuang, who said he was a dwarf in public. He was furious at once. With a roar, he chopped his double sabers. Qin Wushuang's Violet Sun Sword was not careless at all. It soared into the sky and slashed out 3 sword auras. With a twist, they collided with the saber aura. Boom! The strong red light and the white light collided. Unparalleled spiritual power shot out in all directions. It was like countless flying sabers and hidden weapons. The leaves in the forest were sent flying, as if it was raining leaves. Devil Boy and Qin Wushuang collided head-on. He was secretly pleased. He also realized that this opponent was not ordinary. His strength was much stronger than Zhao Muji's. Such an opponent could make him, Devil Boy, more excited and happy. Killing such an opponent was twice as satisfying. Thinking of this, Devil Boy suddenly rolled his body into a meatball again. His whole body was covered in white light. Like a cannonball, he directly crashed into Qin Wushuang. His 2-hand sabers were like dancing snowflakes. His whole body was armed like a hedgehog, with spikes everywhere. Qin Wushuang held the Violet Sun Sword. With a roar, he chopped out the middle of the sword. With a whoosh, a dragon-like sword aura whizzed out and chopped directly at Devil Boy. At this moment, Devil Boy was like a spinning top. He skillfully rolled around the sword aura and rushed toward Qin Wushuang again. Qin Wushuang was not afraid at all. He suddenly swung his left hand. The snake-shaped soft whip circled 6 times, from small to large, like a wicker basket, toward Devil Boy. The length of the snake-shaped soft whip was very advantageous. It looked like 6 gradually expanding circles, but in fact, there were 6 very fierce restraining forces. As long as Devil Boy was bound by one of them, he would have no choice but to surrender. Devil Boy knew the power. Seeing the 6 restraining forces rolling toward him, he did not dare to rashly attack. His body bounced in the air. He opened his body, which had been compressed into a meatball, and raised his 2 sabers toward the snake-shaped soft whip. When the 2 sabers met, Devil Boy showed a strange smile. Suddenly, with a flash of white light, the 2 sabers turned back into a pair of gloomy claws and directly caught the tip of the snake-shaped soft whip. Qin Wushuang seemed to have expected Devil Boy's move. He did not dodge. He had seen Devil Boy cut off Zhao Muji's judge pen with the same claws. But Qin Wushuang had his own means. Devil Boy saw that Qin Wushuang did not take back the long whip. He was delighted and cut it down. At this moment, Devil Boy seemed to be shocked by electricity. His whole body trembled violently. He only felt that his dantian was suddenly pulled by something. It was indescribably uncomfortable. What happened? Devil Boy was shocked. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 279. Without a doubt, Qin Wushuang had used the power of Deep North. This surge of suction power was extremely tyrannical. Like a high-voltage electric current, once one touched it, there would only be two results. One would be hit, or one would break free. Indeed, this devil boy was different than other elite warriors. Inwardly, he was shocked when he was pulled by this suction force. However, he did not get caught by Qin Wushuang. Instead, he shook his hands and shot out in a flash. With a surprised face, he looked at the snake-shaped soft whip in Qin Wushuang's hand and shouted angrily, "What the hell is this whip?" Devil Boy thought that Qin Wushuang's whip had the effect of thunder and lightning. So looking at the whip in Qin Wushuang's hand, he was a little afraid. Qin Wushuang knew that he was suspicious, but he smiled and said, "What? Didn't you want to fight with me just now? Why are you flinching now?" Devil Boy's means lay in his various attacks. Once these attacks could not gain the upper hand, his advantage would be limited. But he did not know that Qin Wushuang was least afraid of attacking masters. In a one-on-one fight, as long as it was not limited by the terrain like the cave in Green Jade Mountain, Qin Wushuang was not afraid of Devil Boy's level of attack at all. Even if there were two Devil Boys, Qin Wushuang could still deal with them. The premise was that the terrain was wide enough to allow him to use his body movements freely. Devil Boy was simple-minded, but it did not mean that he was brainless. He shook his head and said, "Your whip must be famous. I will not be fooled by you. Where did that crazy advancement of yours go? Since you are afraid of my whip, let me attack, and you defend. How about it?" After saying this, Qin Wushuang waved the whip. Like a dancing dragon, it shook out a deadly arc and whipped toward Devil Boy. This action caused the void to tremble violently, and spiritual power fluctuations in the form of ripples spread out continuously. Devil Boy had a suspicious personality. When he saw Qin Wushuang's attack coming, he ducked his head and burrowed into the ground again. Qin Wushuang laughed and said, "I was wondering how powerful you were. It turns out that you are the real coward." Devil Boy naturally heard Qin Wushuang's sarcasm from the ground. He was secretly angry. This bastard wants to trick me by relying on his powerful weapon. How could I do as he wished? I'll give him a surprise and let him know what Devil Boy is capable of. Immediately, he drilled his head into the ground and began to shuttle through the ground. Devil Boy's method of working underground was even better than that gray-robed man. Elder Qinjun moving back and forth like this, he could perfectly control the fluctuations of his spiritual power, making it impossible for the enemy to capture his movement frequency. Moreover, the area where he was hiding was 3 meters deep underground. Even if his opponent attacked from the ground, he would have enough time to react and calmly dodge. Qin Wushuang did not have a better way to deal with this kind of underground technique, so he could only hide in a high place and fully sense all the changes around him. He had already realized that Devil Boy must be up to some tricks underground. That said, he could not figure out what Devil Boy was doing at the moment. At this moment, Devil Boy was very busy underground. He wanted to destroy all the ley lines within a few kilometers around him. This way, as long as the fighting power on the ground was slightly greater, the ground would suddenly sink. Devil Boy only needed a slight chance to make his opponent panic when the ground sank, and he was confident that he could defeat his opponent in an instant. It could be said that Devil Boy had never failed in this method. It was like a person crossing a river on a boat, and if the boat suddenly became empty, there was a possibility that he would fall into the water. By the same logic, once the ground sank, no matter how fast one reacted, the first thing that would happen would be to sink. Qin Wushuang suddenly reached into his pocket and released the white sable. At this time, a spirit beast detection power was always stronger than a human's. Moreover, this white sable was small and had a better ability to blend in with the terrain. As expected, in a short while, the white sable scurried back and whispered a few words beside Qin Wushuang. Qin Wushuang slightly frowned and immediately understood Devil Boy's sinister intention: destroying the ley lines. In this place, once the ley lines were destroyed, it was very likely that a large area would collapse. In a battle, if he was not mentally prepared, once the terrain collapsed, he would certainly suffer a great loss. Qin Wushuang put the white sable back into the storage bag. Then he took out the graceful spiritual bow. The 3 arrows attached to the arrows were completely green in color and were sparkling and translucent. Qin Wushuang gently stroked the graceful spiritual bow and thought, "In this battle, no matter if I succeed or not, if I can kill Devil Boy, I will kill him. If I can't, I will retreat immediately and will not be entangled. Anyway, we have already shed all pretense of cordiality. If I can't kill him, even if Devil Boy knows my real identity, it won't matter. Anyway, we both have the same idea and want to kill each other." Thinking like this, Qin Wushuang slowly opened the graceful spiritual bow. His 4 fingers carried the 3 dark green arrows and prepared to shoot a string of arrows. Qin Wushuang was not unfamiliar with the art of archery. In addition, Shang Yi had taught him a lot of Xiantian archery skills that day. Therefore, Qin Wushuang was not unfamiliar with it at all. He shouted loudly, "Devil Boy, you like to play hide and seek. You can play by yourself. I won't accompany you. Goodbye." Devil Boy was already nearing the end of the battle underground. Hearing Qin Wushuang say that he was going to leave, he was naturally anxious. It was not easy to set up such a trap. If he let the opponent escape like this, wouldn't all his efforts be in vain? Immediately, he floated to the surface of the ground and popped out his head. "What? Are you afraid?" Before he could finish his sentence, Devil Boy's expression changed, because a light flashed in his eyes. An unparalleled murderous aura, with a strong force, shot towards him like a shooting star. "What is this?" Devil Boy was shocked and quickly dived down. Boom! An arrow was shot, and the graceful spiritual bow was overflowing with light. It was as if a sleeping god had suddenly stretched out his muscles and bones. The arrow was shot out, and there was a rumbling sound. When it came into contact with the ground, the tragic sound of the explosion was incessant. The surrounding ground collapsed uniformly, and a huge pit suddenly appeared in front of them. One by one, the big trees fell into the pit. Rumble, rumble. Qin Wushuang was not the slightest bit moved. The second arrow was shot consecutively. Another arrow was shot. Swoosh! As if it was a world-destroying blow, the entire void was intimidated by this momentum. It was as if there was only one force in the entire world, and that was destruction. Devil Boy dodged the first arrow. Before he could dive deeper into the ground, Qin Wushuang's second arrow followed. Devil Boy's body dived into the ground forcefully, and he dodged another arrow. However, Qin Wushuang had a total of 3 arrows. He had dodged the first 2 arrows, but how could he dodge the third one? Devil Boy seemed to realize that he could not dodge the third arrow. In desperation, he hurriedly chanted a spell. Suddenly, a ray of golden light shot out from his back and bloomed. And at this moment, the third arrow was shot. The green arrow light collided with the golden light that bloomed. A golden vortex surged out, and a large hole was caved in on Devil Boy's back. This arrow still did not pierce through Devil Boy. However, this arrow almost shattered Devil Boy's dantian. This golden light was the indestructible golden talisman that the headmaster of the archaic Arcanum sect gave to Devil Boy. It had a mysterious origin. As long as it was within the spiritual martial force, no powerful attack could break this indestructible golden talisman. However, the graceful spiritual bow in Qin Wushuang's hand was also extraordinary. It was not a spiritual weapon within the spiritual martial force. Its power was so strong that it could destroy heaven and earth. Although Qin Wushuang could not use 20% of its power, it still shattered that golden light. Although he couldn't kill Devil Boy, he was still heavily injured. Devil Boy spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Other than regret, he was also scared. This was the first time he had suffered such a big loss since he started his career. It was such a loss that he had no temper to speak of. At this moment, he only wanted to escape. However, under the attack of the 3 arrows from the graceful spiritual bow, his physical strength was almost used up. Plus, he was seriously injured. How could it be easy to escape? Before he had time to gather his chi and drill into the ground, Qin Wushuang's body had already rushed over like a flying swan. He rolled the snake-shaped soft whip in his hand. 6 ripples of spiritual light were emitted and wrapped around Devil Boy. The spiritual chi circled around, and instantly, Devil Boy was wrapped up like a dumpling and lifted out from the ground. Devil Boy was scared out of his wits. He screamed miserably, "Don't kill me. You will regret it." Qin Wushuang sneered, "Indeed, I will not kill you." Activating the power of Deep North, a powerful suction force once again probed into Devil Boy's Dantian Chi Si. The suction force of the power of Deep North was like a greedy beast leaping into a flock of sheep, unceremoniously absorbing. Devil Boy screamed miserably. His entire body trembled, and he kept on struggling. However, there was nothing he could do. The suction force of the power of Deep North was like a leech attached to his Dantian sea of chi, greedily sucking. At first, Devil Boy could still struggle. However, soon, he was like a piece of meat on the chopping board. He could only be slaughtered by Qin Wushuang. He could never have imagined that he, the heaven's pride of his generation, the supreme character that the Celestial Arcanum sect foretold would sooner or later dominate the 3 Eastern empires, would lose his life in such an inexplicable situation. Until his death, he still could not understand who killed him. Evildoer. This person must be an evildoer. Devil Boy's last remaining thought cursed. He also felt that his opponent was clearly absorbing the spiritual chi in his Dantian. Devil Boy had never heard of such a method of directly absorbing other people's spiritual chi. He cursed weakly, "Kid, you will die sooner or later after absorbing my spiritual chi. Once my spiritual chi backfires, it will certainly swallow your body. Ha ha! You will die one step later than me. You won't be proud for too long." His Dantian was already like a deflated balloon. There was no spiritual chi left. Qin Wushuang pointed his fingertip. His finger force was like a cutting machine. It swept across Devil Boy's neck. A fine gap was seen, and then blood seeped out. Suddenly, Devil Boy's large head fell to the ground, and he died just like that. The Celestial Arcanum sect's wishful thinking of winning by surprise naturally came to nothing. Brothers, do your best. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 280. Without hesitation, Qin Wushuang destroyed the body on the spot. Then he dispersed all the upper sky chi at the scene and cut off all the clues. Finally, he left. For sure, killing Devil Boy would cause a world-shaking consequence in the Heavenly Lake Empire. For this point, Qin Wushuang had expected it. Thus, after he had done everything, he had thought through all the methods he had used to deal with the aftermath and did not leave any loopholes. After he had retrieved the 3 green arrows from the graceful spiritual bow, besides the pit at the scene, Devil Boy's body had been turned into ashes and thrown to the bottom of the river to feed the fish. Thus, even if the Archaic Mystery Sect were to investigate, they could only investigate this battle scene. With just this battle scene alone, the Archaic Mystery Sect would not suspect Qin Wushuang. After all, regarding the degree of destruction from this battle, it was not something a middle-stage warrior could create. While Qin Wushuang walked, he was also overwhelmed with emotions. With regards to the power of the graceful spiritual bow, he finally recognized it. It was truly not something that could be described with the word shocking. It was definitely at the level of earth-shattering. Inwardly, he was also filled with gratitude. He was extremely touched by Shang Yi, this Jinlan brother whom he had met by chance, and felt like old friends at first sight. Indeed, Qin Wushuang blushed in shame when he thought about how he had given him such a treasure for the first time. He knew that Shang Yi had given him this bow because he was grateful for the pill he had given him. However, Big Brother Shang Yi had said that it was his teacher's last wish to give this bow to the destined person. Regardless of whether this last wish was true or not, Qin Wushuang would never forget this great favor. Fortunately, when he had used this graceful spiritual bow to kill Devil Boy, it had certainly caused a strong reaction from all sides of the Archaic Mystery Sect. At least, those people from the Red Dragon Empire had asked for help from the Archaic Mystery Sect. Most likely, after such a thing had happened, those elite warriors at the head level would not have the heart to help the Red Dragon Empire. Indirectly, he had shared some of the pressure for Big Brother Shangyi. If the head of the Archaic Mysteries sect did not step out, then most likely the others would not pose any threat to Big Brother Shangyi. Since he had the mask, he was not worried about being exposed. As long as he got rid of his pursuers, he would be able to roam freely in the vast world. Qin Wushuang quickly left the scene. After running for 3 days and 3 nights, he was finally several thousand miles away from the scene. Only then did he find a remote place to begin fusing the spiritual energy he absorbed from Devil Boy. Although Devil Boy was seriously injured, the spiritual power in his Dantian Sea of Qi did not decrease because of this. Qin Wushuang's absorption this time was definitely a great harvest, better than any absorption in the past. This Devil Boy's spiritual power is so abundant, and it seems to be very strange and extraordinary. The richness of the spiritual energy is truly astonishing. Qin Wushuang slowly fused with the spiritual energy. Naturally, the spiritual qi of a middle-stage warrior was harder to digest and merge than an initial-stage warrior. Fortunately, Qin Wushuang's own strength had also increased by 1 level. Now, he was also a middle-stage warrior. Thus, his digestive power had also increased a lot. Although it was more difficult to digest and fuse, once it was used and fused with the spirit energy in his Qi Sea, the effects would naturally be greater. Soon, 3 days had passed with this fusion. Finally, Qin Wushuang had gotten rid of the last trace of impurities in his Dantian. He had completely fused with all of Devil Boy's spiritual Qi. No wonder he is a middle-stage warrior. The spiritual Qi of this Devil Boy is abundant. This fusion should help me take a big step forward in the middle stage, right? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was also rather satisfied. Although the process from the middle stage to the advanced stage was extremely slow, it was far from enough to only rely on the absorption of Devil Boy's spiritual qi. However, Qin Wushuang was not discouraged and was not in a rush for success. Without taking a few steps, one would not be able to travel 1,000 miles. He firmly believed that his speed was fast enough. As long as he had the right fortuitous opportunity, it would not be a problem to charge for the advanced stage. The only problem was the length of time. Currently, Qin Wushuang was looking forward to the advanced stage. He was still thinking about the second loop of the 7 deadly formation arrays inside the cave in the Great Song Mountains. As long as he entered the advanced stage, he could enter the 3rd loop. At the same time, he could also break the petrification technique on that giant greenstone and take that purple flame electric beast for his own use. That would be the existence at the perfect stage. Once that day arrived, Qin Wushuang firmly believed that he would be able to run free in the entire human countries. In the human countries, he would not fear any authority or oppression from any unfair powerhouses. By that time, even the Red Dragon Empire would not need to fear them. If they are still chasing after Big Brother Shangyi, I must intervene. Qin Wushuang thought this way. When he walked out from the dark, Qin Wushuang took off his mask and changed his clothes. Then, he regained his original appearance as Qin Wushuang. He had done this out of consideration for his own safety. After all, he had shown this appearance to others. Even if others had not paid attention to him, he could not guarantee that no one had noticed him in the 100 Battles Mountain. When he lured Devil Boy away, many people had seen it. Most likely, someone would remember his appearance under the mask, and it would become a clue for the Archaic Mysteries sect. Thus, no one in the Heavenly Lake Empire recognized him when he had regained Qin Wushuang's appearance. After all, Qin Wushuang had never stepped into the Heavenly Lake Empire, and in the eyes of others, he was a historical figure that had died half a year ago. Thus, after he had taken off his mask, he did not attract any attention along the way. Plus, Qin Wushuang had kept a low profile. He only walked and did not pay attention to anything. Thus, he did not encounter any difficulties. Along the way, for each day that Qin Wushuang had walked, he could feel the changes brought about by Devil Boy's death. Each day, the news had become more intense. Everywhere, there was a piece of news about Devil Boy's disappearance. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang felt apprehensive. Yet, he did not join in the fun. On this day, he had finally arrived at the imperial capital of the Heavenly Lake Empire. Using his identity as a disciple of the Stargaze Palace, Qin Wushuang did not encounter any obstacles when he entered the city gate. Ha! This Stargaze Palace disciple plate did not carve a name. They did have foresight. Qin Wushuang put away the plate and walked into the city. Just as he was about to inquire about the location of the Pine Crane Inn, suddenly, he saw a group of black heads under the city wall. They were looking a notice. Wanted poster. From afar, Qin Wushuang saw these 3 words. There were 2 faces drawn on this wanted poster. One of the faces was Shang Ye's face, and the other face made Qin Wushuang feel lucky. It was his original face that had been wearing the mask. It was written on this wanted poster that this person was a fugitive from the Red Dragon Empire. Most likely, these 2 faces were the same person. Of course, it was also possible that they were not the same person. Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh inwardly and thought, "Indeed, my appearance was watched by many eyes in the dark. Although that face was only 70 to 80% similar, someone had clearly described it to be drawn with such accuracy. This way, although I had kept a low profile, someone still noticed me. Fortunately, I took off my mask. Or else, wouldn't I be looking for trouble?" The Archaic Mysteries sect was indeed efficient. Indeed, they were extraordinary as they were able to investigate everything in such detail in just 10 days. Of course, this so-called wanted poster was in the end just for fun. It did not mention much about it. It only said that anyone who had seen these 2 faces and provided useful information will be taken in as a disciple of the Archaic Mysteries sect and be conferred the title of National Scholar. However, this wanted poster did not mention the death of Devil Boy. Normally, the Archaic Mysteries sect should have a way to confirm whether Devil Boy was alive or dead. Just by looking at the scene of the battle, they should have guessed that Devil Boy was dead. However, this wanted poster did not mention a single word about it. Qin Wushuang knew that the Archaic Mysteries sect was pretending to hide their intentions. Most likely, even if those heads knew about Devil Boy's death, they would not announce it to the core disciples. This way, it would greatly affect their morale. After looking for a moment, Qin Wushuang did not think too much about it and turned to leave. Inwardly, he thought that the Archaic Mysteries sect had a rich imagination. Could it be that they truly thought that it was Senior Brother Shang Yi who had killed Devil Boy? Of course, perhaps, the Heavenly Lake Empire had done this because they wanted to tie their interest to the Red Dragon Empire. Thus, they had used their passion to get the cold shoulder from the Red Dragon Empire. Qin Wushuang did not have the energy to analyze the Heavenly Lake Empire's motives. Today was already the 27th of June, and only 3 days were left until the first day of July. Perhaps, all the disciples of the Stargaze Palace had already arrived. I wonder if Teacher Tan Zhongqi is the leader of this trip? If he had arrived and saw this face, for sure, he would know it was me. And with his information network, for sure, he would know the reason behind this wanted poster. It would not be hard for him to guess that I was the one who had killed Devil Boy. As Qin Wushuang thought about it, he did not ask for directions. Instead, he strolled along the street and went wherever he went. After walking for about half an hour, Qin Wushuang saw a fluttering banner on the street ahead of him. It was the 4 words Pine Crane Inn. Qin Wushuang was about to walk towards that inn. Suddenly, a familiar voice emerged from behind him. Astronomy, geography, fortune-telling, free of charge. Brother, you're walking like a dragon or a tiger, and you have an impressive appearance. Please wait. Clearly, this voice was shouting at Qin Wushuang. And this person was Li Bai, the plainclothed fortune-teller he had met when he had just arrived at the border of the Heavenly Lake Empire. Why did this guy come to this place? Inwardly, Qin Wushuang's heart sank. However, he remembered that he had used the face on the wanted poster. If Li Bai recognized him, wouldn't it be troublesome? Instantly, he did not look back and was about to leave quickly. Unexpectedly, Li Bai was extremely lazy as he quickly followed him and said with a mischievous smile, Brother, I am calling you. please stop. Sorry, I'm a master of my own fate. I am not interested in fortune-telling, Qin Wushuang said in a low voice. Qin Wushuang spoke his mind and prevented Li Bai from opening his mouth to prevent him from getting tangled up. P.S. Not good, not good. 5 chapters are up. I am still a dozen votes away from 850. However, I decided to take a step back and wait until 2200 hours. If I have 850 votes by then, I will continue to update. I will not break my promise. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 281. Li Bai said with a faint smile, "My fate is in my own hands. However, I see that you have a dignified appearance, and it would be a pity if I didn't predict it. I know the sky and the earth, and I am invincible in divination. That day at the Silver Leaf Country, a subordinate country of the Heavenly Lake Empire, I was rejected by a guy who did not listen to my advice. Do you know what happened to him?" Qin Wushuang's heart skipped a beat as he asked in a low voice, "What?" Li Bai pointed to the notice board before him leisurely. "That guy did not listen to my advice, and now he is wanted by the Heavenly Lake Empire. Tell me, if you don't listen to my advice, you will suffer. Is this wrong?" Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was moved. He did not know if Li Bai had said it unintentionally, or if he was referring to something. He said with an expressionless face, "It's none of my business. I still have matters to attend to. Excuse me." Li Bai laughed mischievously. "Hold on. I have something I would like to ask you to explain." "How should I explain it?" "What?" Qin Wushuang asked helplessly when he saw his mischievous attitude. "I'm talking about turning hostile." Li Bai laughed. "It's not hard to understand these words. However, it seems to be appropriate to use it at this moment. Brother, is this also called falling out with others?" Then, with a low voice, he laughed evilly. "Or, are you trying to change your face?" As soon as he said these words, Qin Wushuang was shocked. However, Li Bai still appeared to be at ease as he said with a mischievous smile, "My alcohol addiction is acting up again. If someone doesn't treat me to a few drinks, once my alcohol addiction acts up, I can't help but speak nonsense." Now, Qin Wushuang already knew that this Li Bai was pretending to be crazy. For sure, he was an elite warrior. Instantly, he sighed helplessly. "Can a few glasses of wine stop your mouth?" Li Bai laughed. "Although it might not stop me, at least I won't talk nonsense at this moment, haha. As for whether or not it will last forever, it will depend on your performance." Qin Wushuang looked around and did not go to that Pine Crane Inn. Instead, he led Li Bai to a pub. Li Bai was not picky as he found a seat by the window and sat down. Then, the dishes were served. Li Bai drank 3 cups with satisfaction. Then he laughed. Nice performance." Qin Wushuang knew that regardless of what he said, in the end, he would make mistakes if he spoke too much. At the moment, he did not speak and only waited for Li Bai to speak. "Hee, is this your true appearance? Wasn't he more handsome?" Unlike before, he was expressionless and not likable at all. Li Bai muttered as he bit into a piece of pork shoulder. Qin Wushuang gave a light sigh. Indeed, this Li Bai had sharp eyes. Most likely, even an advanced stage warrior could not see through the flaws of that mask. Who was this Li Bai that he could see through it? Isn't it strange? Reading people's faces is my job," Li Bai said proudly. "Now, can I read your fortune again?" Qin Wushuang shook his head. This time, he did not refuse. Instead, he was on guard against this Li Bai from beginning to end. He was not worried that this Li Bai was someone from the Heavenly Lake Empire. Instead, he felt that this Li Bai was too mysterious. With all his secrets, it would be best if he did not leak them. Li Bai gave a long sigh. "In my life, I have seen countless people and I have never made a mistake. Yet, I have made a mistake on you. I thought about it. The name you told me that day should be a fake name. However, at that time, how come I cannot see that you were lying?" Qin Wushuang said with a light smile. "Why did you say that I was lying?" "For sure, You're not called Wu Xing'a. Or else, when I connected your name, I could at least figure out some clues. Li Bai sighed helplessly. Anyways, just say it if you want. It doesn't matter if you don't want to. He looked outside the window and said in a low voice, The Archaic Mysteries sect wants to curry favor with the Red Dragon Empire. Regardless of whether you are from the Vermilion Empire or the Great Luo, you must be careful. Initially, all of this has nothing to do with me. However, you little guy are somewhat interesting. Ha ha ha, little guy. I will eventually find out your real name. This Li Bai laughed and stood up. He dragged his signature footsteps and walked out leisurely. Indeed, his temperament had some characteristics of an elite warrior in the Jianghu. Qin Wushuang could not help but feel absent-minded as he looked at the back of this Li Bai. It was the first time he had felt powerless. Before this Li Bai, he felt as if he had seen through everything. He could not understand how Li Bai had recognized him at first glance. And he was so sure. However, he was not worried that Li Bai would reveal the secret. Apparently, this Li Bai would not act so despicable. From his performance, he should be an elite warrior that had experienced the hardships of life. Putting on an act should be his usual style. His style of pretending to be confused. After Li Bai's disturbance, Qin Wushuang had become much more clear-headed. He walked out of the pub and wandered along the street for a moment. He only walked towards the Pine Crane Inn when the sky was getting dark. When he arrived at the Pine Crane Inn, Qin Wushuang paid some attention. Indeed, he had discovered the secret signal left by the Stargaze Palace in the dark. He knew that his colleagues had already checked in. Inwardly, he felt rather warm. Since his colleagues had arrived, Qin Wushuang felt much more reassured. Inwardly, he wondered if senior brother Zhao Muji had gathered with his colleagues. On that day, when I lured Devil Boy away, no one should be able to threaten him at the scene. Qin Wushuang booked a room and went in. He planned to find a suitable opportunity to regroup with his colleagues. It would be best if his teacher had also come to this place. Either his teacher or the head palace master would come to find him. Currently, he was not sure if the head palace master and his teacher had told his colleagues the secret. Currently, the main force of the Stargaze Palace had all gathered around the east wing of the inn. The Stargaze Palace had booked all the rooms in this east wing. Thus, they did not need to worry about being disturbed by other guests. Besides Zhuo Buqian, the head palace master, the other 4 palace masters had drawn lots. Indeed, Tan Zhongqi was among them. The other person was Tian Jixing, the 5th palace master. These 3 palace masters had led the team and brought a total of 12 core disciples. Now, the 3 palace masters and the 12 core disciples had all gathered in a giant room. Zhuo Buqian, the head palace master, asked, Zhao Muji, tell us about your experiences along the way. Zhao Muji recounted his experience in the 100 Battles Mountain, emphasizing it once. Zhuo Buqian said with a solemn expression, Devil Boy, this is one of the trump cards of the Archaic Mysteries sect. Since even Zhao Muji could not beat him, for sure, this person was at the middle stage. However, according to the secret report, this person had disappeared after that pursuit. I speculate that the wanted poster issued by the Archaic Mysteries sect is related to Devil Boy. Tan Zhongqi laughed. If he did not return now, most likely he is dead. Head Palace Master, when we entered the city today, have you studied the portrait on the wanted poster? Zhuo Buqian had a trace of doubt. Initially, they had just arrived, and Tan Zhongqi did not have the chance to explain to Zhuo Buqian about that mask. According to Zhao Muji's words, most likely, the person that saved him was a disciple of the Dragon and Tiger sect. However, Muji, do you think a disciple of the Dragon and Tiger sect would make a move under that situation? Zhao Muji said honestly. At that time, I also felt it was strange and could not figure it out. If I were a disciple of the Dragon and Tiger sect, I would have watched the fire burning across the river. It would not be too late to make a move after the life and death had been determined. Tan Zhongqi laughed. That's right. Thus, the person that saved you was not a disciple of the Dragon and Tiger sect, but someone else. Muji, you saw the portrait on the wanted poster clearly, right? Zhao Muji nodded. Yes, I saw it clearly. From my vague impression, the person in the portrait should be the one that had helped me. Now, Since the archaic mysteries sect wanted him, I speculate that something had happened to Devil Boy. Or else, if Devil Boy had killed that person, why would he need to put up a wanted poster? As Ruobuchuan looked at Tan Zhongqi's joyful expression, suddenly, he had an idea. Second, could it be that you already know the identity of that person? Tan Zhongqi said with a smile. Head Palace Master, you should know, right? As if they were guessing a riddle. Suddenly, these two started to laugh. The others, including Tian Jixing, the fifth Palace Master, were confused. Boss, second, what are you guys laughing about? What's so happy about? Zhuobuchuan said seriously. At this point, we must be honest about this matter. None of the core disciples that came here are outsiders. They would never leak any secrets. The others all nodded. Okay, then I will give you guys a great piece of good news. When Zhuobuchuan said here, he was also overjoyed as he said with a cheerful tone, the person wanted by the archaic mysteries sect is your fellow disciple. Fellow disciple? Wei Yi and Zhao Muji cried out at the same time. Zhou Fu and the others also looked at Zhuobuchuan with confusion in their eyes. This time, Zhao Muji was the first one to react. It was because when he was at the 100 Battles Mountain, a strange illusion had emerged in his head. When he thought back, he could not help but blurt out, could it be junior brother Qin Wushuang? Junior brother Qin? The others were all dumbstruck. How could it be junior brother Qin? He is not. Zhou Fu's voice trembled as she looked at Tan Zhongqi with eyes full of excitement and expectation. Both Zhuobuchuan and Tan Zhongqi nodded slowly. Zhuobuchuan said, let me tell you guys, Qin Wushuang did not die at the Green Jade Mountain. Instead, by chance, he was sent to his hometown by an elder of the Archaic Mysteries sect through a transportation circle. In these 6 months, he hid in the Bayou country and waited for a chance to rise again. And this friendly competition between the 3 Eastern empires is the best stage for him to rise again. As soon as he said these words, besides Tan Zhongqi, who was smiling casually, everyone else was dumbstruck. For a while, they could not speak a word. Zhao Muji was overjoyed as he mumbled, no wonder, no wonder. Junior brother Qin, I didn't expect that you would save me again. Zhou Fu was crying tears of joy as she could not help but ask, Teacher, is what the head palace master said true? Tan Zhongqi gave a long sigh. That's right, if Wushuang had not died, how could I have let go of those bastards from the West Shu and the Great Wu at the Royal Qin Mansion? Wei Yi was also overjoyed. Junior brother Qin is not dead. That's great. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.qijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 282. At this time, suddenly, Tan Zhongqi laughed. Wushuang should be here. I'm going out to take a look. I'm going too. Zhou Fu followed. The others also became restless. Zhuobuchuan immediately said, it's enough for the 2 of them to go. The others should wait here. Zhuobuchuan was worried that with so many people rushing out, it would not be a good influence. Hearing Zhuobuchuan's words, the others could only step back. Inwardly, they were curious. Was this junior brother Wushuang still alive? On the other hand, Qin Wushuang was leaving a secret signal at the inn. Just as he was about to sit down, suddenly, his brow twitched as joy appeared on his face. Teacher. He rushed to the door, and as soon as he opened the door, indeed, he saw Tan Zhongqi standing outside. His face was full of praise, and even a trace of doting. Wushuang, I trust you have been well since we last met. Qin Wushuang laughed. I am doing well. I wonder how the others are? How about senior brother, Zhao Muji? Let's go. Everyone is waiting for you to meet them. After half a year, Qin Wushuang had not seen these people. Indeed, he was looking forward to it. Under Tan Zhongqi's lead, they walked towards the east wing. Junior brother Wushuang, why didn't you tell me that you were not dead? You made me cry for you many times in this half year. Zhou Fu pretended to complain along the way. Haha, Fu don't complain. I am the one who made the decision. Tan Zhongqi laughed. Zhou Fu twitched her mouth. Teacher, you are so biased. Tan Zhongqi said seriously. I am always fair and impartial. How could I be biased? While they were talking, they had already arrived at the East Wing. Zhuobuchuan was already waiting at the door with all his disciples. When they saw Qin Wushuang walking over in high spirits, their eyes lit up as they all went up to greet him. Junior brother Qin. Wait, he was the first one to walk up. He extended his palm and high-fived Qin Wushuang. When their shoulders touched, Wei Yi said in a low voice, "For the battle at the Green Jade Mountain, as your senior brother, I am sorry." Zhao Muji also walked over and high-fived Qin Wushuang. Junior martial brother Qin, thank you for saving me twice. I, Zhao Muji, do not know how to be courteous, but as your senior brother, I admire you. Other than Wei Yi, there was no one else in the younger generation that Zhao Muji admired. And now, Qin Wushuang's name would be added to this list. Zhuo Buchuan and Tan Zhongqi also felt rather gratified when they saw the joyous and harmonious scene between their fellow disciples. They nodded inwardly. Second, this is the hope of the Stargaze Palace. Only such young people can see the future. Zhuo Buchuan sighed with emotion in a low voice. Tan Zhongqi felt the same way. After this incident, I believe that there will be more chemistry and less friction between these young people. The friendly competition of the three Eastern empires had always been the most cohesive. I don't think it will be an exception this time. When they arrive at the house, Zhou Fu asked first, "Junior brother Wushuang, that time at the Green Jade Mountain, how many people had besieged you? We were all worried to death and wanted to go in to save you." Yes, senior brother Wei, he had blocked them with his life. Or else, we would have all become funerary objects. Huang Chuyang, the third disciple to the line of the head palace master, sighed with emotion. Qin Wushuang said with a smile, "Fortunately, you guys did not go. I only learned about that Green Jade Mountain being razed to the ground later. At that time, there were 4 middle-stage warriors that had besieged me. They were all elite warriors at the elder level of the Archaic Mysteries sect. There was also a group of initial-stage warriors who were most likely core disciples. Although they were not the top, they had great strength. For elders? Inwardly, the others were all shocked. Yes, 4 of them had attacked me without any power to fight back. They threw me into the giant natural pit inside the cave. Unexpectedly. To me, it was a way to survive, and to them, it was a dead end." Zhou Fu said angrily. "The Archaic Mysteries sect is truly shameless. They deserved it when all those elders died. This time at the 100 Battles Mountain, I heard from junior brother Zhao Muji that they had set up an arena and announced 2 shameless slogans. Junior brother Wushuang, was it you who lured that devil boy away?" Zhao Muji also looked at Qin Wushuang attentively. Qin Wushuang nodded with a smile. "Indeed, it was me. Only at that time, there were too many eyes and ears. Plus, the situation was urgent, and I did not have the time to meet up with you." Zhao Muji sighed. "Indeed, it was you. At that time, I had a strange illusion. Now, it seems that it was not an illusion." However, Tan Zhongqi asked, "Wushuang, that devil boy." Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh. "That guy's exceptional. If it weren't for his immature mind, I am afraid I would not have been able to do anything to him. Fortunately, this person is simple-minded and fell into my trap. I have already killed him in secret." Although everyone had guessed earlier, they were also excited when they heard Qin Wushuang say it with certainty. "Great!" Zhao Muji was the first one to cry out. If this devil boy had not died, he would have been a great threat to the Stargaze Palace. Now that he is dead, let's see what other trump cards the Archaic Mysteries sect has. Indeed, the Archaic Mysteries sect can keep their cool. Even I didn't expect Devil Boy to be here. If this Devil Boy had appeared out of nowhere, it would have been troublesome. Zhuobuchuan said in a low voice, "Wushuang, for this matter, you did a great job. Will there be any future troubles?" Qin Wushuang shook his head. "I did it very carefully and did not leave any reliable clues. Unless someone knows that I am the one wearing that mask, there will be no future troubles." Tan Zhongqi said, "Then no need to worry. Everyone here is a core disciple, and they are 100% reliable. Besides, no one will know. However, Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh and slowly talked about how he had met Li Bai along the way. He especially emphasized how Li Bai had appeared and disappeared mysteriously and how he had talked about the wind and dust. After he had finished speaking, even Zhuo Buqian showed a solemn expression. Li Bai? There is such person? Tan Zhongqi could not help but ask. Head Palace Master, have you heard of this person? Zhuo Buqian shook his head. Never heard of him? Among the elite warriors in the human countries, there are less than 10 people at the perfect stage. Li Bai is not on this list. Could it be a fabricated name? Tian Jixing, the 5th Palace Master, said in a low voice. After a moment of silence, Zhuo Buqian opened his mouth to speak. This person could see through Wushuang's mask and determine one's birth date by looking at the lines on one's hand. For sure, he is not a swindler. Most likely, he is an unworldly elite warrior. Unworldly elite warrior? Tan Zhongqi could not understand. If he is an elite warrior, I would believe it. However, all the elite warriors today have been praised to a high position. Why would they play around and waste their life? The higher one's strength, the more they would be engrossed in training. One's lifespan was limited and the Tao was endless. Who would not want to use their limited lifespan to strive for an endless Tao and achieve an immortal body? Therefore, it was impossible for a true expert to play around all the time and not cultivate, squandering away such a good time. To a martial artist, it was too tempting to live forever and have an indestructible body. Zhuo Buqian was rather calm as he said, Everyone, no need to make unnecessary guesses. For sure, this Li Bai has his reasons. We're just afraid that he is not an elite warrior. If he is, for sure, he does not have any ill intentions towards Wushuang. We do not need to worry about him exposing Wushuang's whereabouts. These words made sense. If he were an elite warrior, he would not be so bored as to stir up trouble and cause a storm. Zhuo Buqian said again, Let's take a step back. Even if he is not an elite warrior and is only a swindler, what about it? Let's take another step back. Even if the archaic mysteries sect knew that Wushuang had killed Devil Boy, what about it? Since Devil Boy had set up the arena privately and intended to kill Zhao Wushuang, it proved that the archaic mysteries sect had evil intentions. Could it be that only they're allowed to target us, and we're not allowed to fight back? Let him be. For this matter, since the Stargaze Palace has done it, we are not afraid to take responsibility. Being a palace master, the head palace master was usually a gentle and refined person. Although he rarely showed his outstanding temperament, it did not mean that he did not have the responsibility of a palace master. On the contrary, Zhuo Buqian was a leader that dared to take action and was able to take responsibility in crucial moments. Or else, how could he lead all the warriors at the Stargaze Palace with his gentle temperament? How could the other 4 palace masters not have any complaints about him and support him wholeheartedly? Hearing the words of the head palace master, Tan Zhongqi also nodded. It's not the first time that the archaic mysteries sect and the Stargaze Palace have fought each other. Wushuang, well done. For this matter, we should have done it this way. Only the archaic mysteries sect is allowed to wreak havoc in their own territory, and we are not allowed to retaliate. Especially the archaic mysteries sect, they had deliberately flattered the Red Dragon Empire. Clearly, they were harboring evil intentions. When those core disciples remembered the grudges between the Heavenly Lake Empire and the Great Luo Empire, each of them nodded in agreement. Qin Wushuang was also somewhat touched when he saw everyone speaking for him. If fellow disciples could share honor and disgrace, shoulder everything together, unite as one, and have a strong leader, how could such a sect not prosper? Suddenly, Zhuo Buqian frowned. Everyone, go back and rest. It seems they are guests. After sensing for a moment, Tan Zhongqi also nodded. They are not coming with good intentions. Head Palace Master, are you going to deal with them? Or should I go? I will go. You and 5th will stay here to guard the door. Nothing must go wrong. Wei Yi and Wushuang, come with me to see the world. Up to this point, Qin Wushuang did not mind showing his face. Anyways, the friendly competition was about to begin. Regardless of schemes, They could not form any conspiracy at this point. They were all open schemes that could be seen on the books. Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi both stepped out and nodded. Then, they followed the head palace master out. Naturally, the other disciples did not object to Zhuo Buchuan's arrangement. These two were at the middle stage of the spiritual martial force and had a qualitative difference with them. Now, as the twin stars of the Stargaze Palace, the others were naturally convinced. When they walked to the main hall of the restaurant, a large group of martial artists had surrounded the entire Pine Harmony restaurant. Each of these martial artists were at the upper sky realm. There were more than 100 of them. Each of them showed off their power and appeared unfriendly. The leader among them had an abnormally terrifying appearance. Under the dusk, he looked like a human and 70% like a ghost. He wore a white robe, and his mummy-like body had almost no flesh. He was so skinny that only white bones could be seen. When he was wrapped in the white robe, one could see his bones. His face was so thin that one could see the bones as if a skull was placed on his neck. Only its pair of eyes emitted a gloomy green aura, which made it look somewhat human. Zhuo Buchuan. This person opened his mouth, and his tone was filled with anger. Hand over the murderer of my disciple. You guys are awesome. You will not be able to leave today. I also hope that everyone will continue to work hard. We are only 10 votes away from 1,000 votes. I hope that everyone can make this month's monthly votes reach 4 digits. To be continued, if you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 283. As soon as this person spoke, it made one's hair stand on end. His sharp voice, plus his body and appearance, made him look like a ferocious ghost. However, as soon as he initiated his temperament, Zhuo Buchuan did not dare to look down on him. He protected Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi behind him and said in a low voice, "Head by. Who is your disciple? Why are you asking the Stargaze Palace for the murderer?" This person was the second head of the Archaic Mysteries sect. He was the most vicious person in the Heavenly Lake Empire. His name was Bai Gujing. It was rumored that he had practiced some kind of evil technique that could make Bai Gujing retreat. Thus, he was named Bai Gujing. Stop with the nonsense. Zhuo Buchuan, I will only ask you one question. Are you going to hand it over or not? This Bai Gujing spoke with an extremely arrogant and tyrannical tone. Only, in Zhuo Buchuan's eyes, his tyrannical tone was only a pretense. Zhuo Buchuan glanced at these upper sky warriors surrounding the pine crane and lightly, and shook his head helplessly. Head by, you have set up such a big formation. Are you trying to show off? Or are you trying to provoke us? Only, don't you think that it's unnecessary to bring such a group of people to talk to me? Zhuo Buchuan's wisdom lay here. If you used force with an aggressive attitude, he would use a soft approach. He would make you unable to use your strength. Bai Gujing said eerily, Zhuo Buchuan, let me ask you again. Are you going to hand over the murderer of my disciple? If you don't hand it over, I am afraid the moon will not be full today. First of all, you have many disciples under you. Who exactly was killed? Secondly, the Stargaze Palace has just arrived. How can we go to your Archaic Mysteries sect to kill someone? Thirdly, since the Archaic Mysteries sect is acting so aggressively, could it be that you think it's fun to be the local bully? Zhuo Buchuan's words were clear and watertight. He left Bai Gujing with nowhere to vent his anger and could not find an opening. Bai Gujing waved his hand. Shi Fei Lan, come here. That core disciple wearing a headband. Shi Fei Lan walked over. Second uncle, I am here. Okay, tell me, that day at the 100 Battles Mountain, who challenged the arena? Who fought with your junior brother Devil Boy? That Shi Fei Lan answered truthfully. At first, there was a person called Chuan Yo or something. He was a small fish, so he was sent away. Then, an exceptional Zhao Muji from the Stargaze Palace came. That person was no match for Junior Devil Boy. Just as he was about to be killed, someone ambushed Junior Devil Boy and lured him away. After that, no one knows where he went. Bai Gujing widened his pair of green eyes and said with a sharp voice, Zhuo Buchuan, did you hear that? That person must be from the Stargaze Palace. Or else, why would he save that Zhao Muji? Zhuobuchuan could not help but laugh. Head by, if you were to become an official of the government office, I don't know how many unjust, false, and wrong cases would occur. You are relying on this baseless speculation to insist that I am a disciple of the Stargaze Palace. It's somewhat strange. Moreover, Zhao Muji set off alone without any companions. How can he be considered an accomplice? Bai Gujing said angrily. If the Stargaze Palace did not intend to play tricks, why would you divide your troops? For sure, the Stargaze Palace is involved in this matter. Head by, could it be that the Stargaze Palace can predict the future and predict that the archaic mysteries sect would set up an arena at the 100 Battles Mountain? Thus, you sent out elite warriors to challenge the arena? You are overestimating the Stargaze Palace with your words. The Stargaze Palace does not know how to predict the future. Although Bai Gujing was vicious and cunning, he could not accept the fact that he had lost his beloved disciple. Due to his emotional state, he was rendered speechless by Zhuobuchuan's words. Initially, he had come here to cause trouble without any evidence. He only relied on his speculation to scare the people of the Stargaze Palace. However, Zhuobuchuan had given him the cold shoulder. However, after all, Bai Gujing was a cunning person. On one hand, he had come here to investigate the real culprit to scare the Stargaze Palace. On the other hand, how could he not want to demonstrate his power? Head Palace Master Zhua, since you are denying it, would you dare to call out all your disciples and let me recognize them? Bai Gujing asked lightly. However, Zhuobuchuan said, the Stargaze Palace is on par with the archaic mysteries sect. We have come to the territory of the Heavenly Lake Empire as guests and not criminals. Head by, since you have mobilized so many people, why should I let you recognize them? Regardless of emotion or reason, it's impossible. Bai Gujing said angrily. If you don't let me recognize them, then it means you have a guilty conscience. Head by, you usually do not accumulate virtue and speak without virtue. Are you not afraid of retribution? Zhuobuchuan lowered his tone and changed his gentle temperament. He understood that this Bai Gujing was pressuring him step by step to test his reaction. If he was easy to talk to, for sure, this Bai Gujing would push his luck. To put it bluntly, even if the Stargaze Palace was a guest, they would not fear the archaic mysteries sect. Historically, the friendly competition of the three Eastern empires had an unspoken rule. To prevent the host from bullying others, the other two powerhouses would form a temporary alliance in secret. Thus, if the archaic mysteries sect wanted to use their geographical advantage to act recklessly, the dragon and tiger sect from the Vermilion Empire would not sit by and watch. Bai Gujing laughed coldly. Retribution? I have been a tyrant for almost 200 years, and I don't know what retribution is. Head Palace Master Zhua, don't think that today's matter is over. Sooner or later, I will take it all back with interest. After looking at Zhuobuchuan coldly for a moment, Bai Gujing waved his hand and left with a large group of people. This Bai Gujing had come in a menacing manner, but he was forced to leave after being snubbed. Naturally, he was furious. It was not because he did not want to use force, but because he knew that when facing Zhuobuchuan, despite his powerful evil techniques, he would most likely be inferior. And even if they were to start a war with the Heavenly Lake Empire, now was not the time. If the Great Luo and the Vermilion Empire joined hands, it would not be easy to deal with them, even if they had the home advantage. Thus, Bai Gujing decided to retreat for now. Inwardly, he swore, Zhuobuchuan, let's see how long you can be proud of the Stargaze Palace. In one day, I will make you regret it. After returning to the archaic mysteries sect, Bai Gujing walked directly to the head palace master. The head palace master of the archaic mysteries sect was called Gao Yu. He was an ambitious and ruthless figure with great foresight. Compared to Bai Gujing, he had a completely different temperament. Boss Gao, I'm sure that the death of Devil Boy is related to the Stargaze Palace. Bai Gujing shouted with a cold voice. His face was ferocious and his tone was full of anger. What? Did you find any clues when you went to investigate? A trace of ruthlessness flashed across Gao Yu's eyes. The death of Devil Boy not only made Bai Gujing depressed, it was also a huge blow to him, the head palace master. It could be said that the entire archaic mysteries sect had received a fatal impact. Especially in the friendly competition of the three Eastern empires, Devil Boy was supposed to win by surprise as a surprise force. Now, Devil Boy had disappeared mysteriously and had lost his life. That Zhuabuchuan is extremely cunning and watertight. From his expression and answers, I could not see anything suspicious. However, the more he acts like this, the more suspicious I feel. Bai Gujing said angrily. Second, Gao Yu gave a long sigh. Now, the death of Devil Boy has caused a huge setback to our plan. Regardless of who the murderer is, we will have to think about the next step. Now, we have to think about how we should deal with this friendly competition. Bai Gujing said bitterly, too bad for my short-lived disciple. If he had not died, how could there be any suspense in this friendly competition? Boss Gao, do you think Devil Boy was killed by one of the palace masters and sect masters in disguise? From the investigation at the scene, it's not impossible. However, think about it. Devil Boy was a surprise move. No one had predicted this arena. How could those old guys have known beforehand? How could they have disguised themselves and waited for Devil Boy to make a move? No matter how he analyzed, there were flaws, and he could not find a perfect solution. Bai Gujing was extremely anxious, yet he could not do anything. He changed the topic and said, since Devil Boy is dead, I am truly disheartened. Boss Gao, this time, the Three Kingdoms friendly competition will depend on how your sect master's disciples perform. If your prized disciple can perform exceedingly well, it's not impossible for him to win the competition. No, the Dragon and Tiger sect has always been mysterious and have many geniuses. And the Stargaze Palace also has Wei Yi, who has the natural spiritual roots. We cannot underestimate him. If the Dragon and Tiger sect only has one core disciple at the middle stage, then with the balance between the three empires, the archaic mysteries sect will have a great chance of winning. I am afraid that the Dragon and Tiger sect still has trump cards. However, Bai Gujing said, how could they have so many trump cards? In the three Eastern empires, we all know each other very well. It's impossible that they could also find a trump card when we have Devil Boy, who only appears once in 100 years, right? Things are unpredictable. We must always prepare for the worst. Gao Yu was extremely steady. Bai Gujing grabbed his sparse hair and looked like he was going crazy. Devil Boy, I've let you down. If I didn't let you go to that arena, we would not be in this predicament today. Gao Yu gave a long sigh. Second, in the past few years, the archaic mysteries sect has not been doing well. At the Green Jade Mountain, we lost 5 elders. Now, Devil Boy has met with misfortune. If we don't change the situation, I am afraid it will affect the foundation of the Heavenly Lake Empire. Change. Bai Gujing was stunned. How? This time, the Nine Palace of the Red Dragon Empire has come to visit. It's a good opportunity. If we can build a connection with the Nine Palace, the archaic mysteries sect, and the Heavenly Lake Empire will be able to rule over the 3 Eastern empires. Gao Yu said with a cold tone, I talked with that law enforcer from the Nine Palace. I also sent 3rd and 4th to help them capture the fugitive. This is a good karma. Next, if we can combine the death of Devil Boy with the fugitive that the Nine Palace is pursuing, it will be a big pot of dirty water. It can form a basin of dirty water and splash it on the Stargaze Palace or the Dragon and Tiger sect. Bai Gujing laughed evilly as a pair of strange lights emerged from his green eyes. He kept nodding. Good, Boss Gao. This is a good move. Don't drag the Dragon and Tiger sect into it, just the Stargaze Palace. Most likely, the fugitive had escaped to the great Luo Empire, and Devil Boy also participated in the pursuit of that fugitive. However, he was killed by an unknown powerhouse. Chapter 284. The summer in the Heavenly Lake Empire was not very hot. After nightfall, Qin Wushuang walked on the pine and cypress path in the backyard of the Pine and Crane Inn. This Pine and Crane Inn was quiet amidst the hustle and bustle. The backyard was quiet and secluded, far away from the hustle and bustle of the mortal world. Qin Wushuang liked this feeling. Qin Wushuang raised his head to look at the sky. The starry sky was bright and full of stars. It was vast and deep. Each star seemed to contain countless secrets that one could not figure out. Qin Wushuang's heart was as calm as still water as he strolled on this little path. Suddenly, he heard light footsteps behind him. When he looked back, he saw a figure dressed in white. Under the starry sky, he appeared graceful and elegant. Junior brother Qin. When that person saw Qin Wushuang, he also smiled and walked over. Senior brother Wei, are you also taking a walk here? Yes, in 4 or 5 days, the friendly competition will begin. Wei sighed with emotion. Yes, the elite warriors of the young generation from the 3 Eastern empires will gather together. Whether it's a mule or a horse, we must take them out for a walk. Qin Wushuang followed and said. Wei raised his head to look at the vast starry sky and said with a serious tone, Junior brother Qin, you have only entered the sect for a year. Most likely, you don't know much about many things. Do you know why the 3 empires place such importance on this friendly competition? I don't know about this. Please enlighten me. Wei sighed. Speaking of which, it's really hard to explain in a few words. To the east of the 3 Eastern empires is the endless Eastern Sea. This endless Eastern Sea is one of the most mysterious areas in the entire Tianxian land. It is boundless and at least 1,000 times wider than our human countries. To the human countries, that endless Eastern Sea is a forbidden area. It is a place that no one can touch. Because of this, the human countries are full of curiosity about this forbidden area. It is rumored that this endless Eastern Sea is full of fortuitous opportunities and different miraculous things. In the past, the 3 Eastern empires would occasionally send adventurers to challenge the endless Eastern Sea. However, in the end, only a few survived. Thus, in the end, the 3 Eastern empires reached an agreement to seal off the endless Eastern Sea. Regardless of which country, no adventurers are allowed to enter the endless Eastern Sea. Qin Wushuang listened patiently. When he had just entered the sect, he had heard his master, Tan Zhongqi, talk about a few places. He said that the human countries should not be easily offended. One of the names was this endless Eastern Sea. So there was such a story. Senior brother Wei, what is the relationship between that endless Eastern Sea and the friendly competition? Wei nodded and continued to speak. After the 3 Eastern empires reached an agreement, it was peaceful for a few dozen years. However, later on, he felt somewhat unwilling to leave such a giant treasure house like the endless Eastern Sea unexplored. Thus, the 3 countries agreed to hold an exchange competition once every 20 years. According to the ranking of the competition, they would explore the endless Eastern Sea once every 20 years. As for the quota, it would decrease according to the ranking. The champion can have 10 people, the runner-up can only have 6 people, and the last place can only have 4 people. Explore the endless Eastern Sea? Qin Wushuang could not help but feel somewhat suspicious. Since that place is listed as a forbidden area, why would we explore it? For such exploration, of course, we would stop at a superficial level. At most, we could only go 3,000 miles and not go any further. Although the sea within the 3,000 miles is dangerous, there is still a limit. Once we go out of the 3,000 miles, it will be dangerous at every step. The waves are emptier than the sky, and the water flow is as rapid as boiling water. Whirlpools, waves, and tsunamis could come at any time. Wei gave a long sigh. For these things, I only heard about it from the elders. As for the exact feeling of exploring the endless Eastern Sea, I don't know. Finally, Qin Wushuang understood. In the end, the friendly competition was a competition for a spot. This way, exploring the endless Eastern Sea was certainly an exceptional opportunity. That was why the 3 great empires were fighting for this spot. Senior brother Wei, since ancient times, have you gained any great gains from exploring this endless Eastern Sea? I have never heard of any great gains. Wei said with a smile. However, apparently, each sect had tasted the sweetness. Or else, How could they be so passionate about this friendly competition? Qin Wushuang thought it made sense. If there were no gains, why would they care so much about an imaginary ranking? Naturally, the competition for that spot held great significance to exploring the endless Eastern Sea. In this world, the rules were similar to his former world. One would not rise early if there were no benefits. For sure, the three great empires had their own reasons for working so hard. On the surface, all the major sects of the three empires are qualified to participate in this friendly competition. However, in fact, those small sects are only there to serve as a contrast. The friendly competition is mainly a competition between the Stargaze Palace, the archaic mysteries sect, and the dragon and tiger sect. Everything else is just a small interlude that can be dispensed with. Wei Yi laughed straightforwardly and suddenly asked, "Junior brother Qin, do you have any personal goals for this competition?" Qin Wushuang was stunned as he shook his head. "I know nothing about the rules of this friendly competition. I don't even know what the competition is. Of course, it's not a personal goal. However, I see that the head palace master and my teacher are extremely passionate about this competition. I can see that they place great importance on it. The elders are so eager. As juniors, we can only do our best to win the championship and make them happy." Wei Yi nodded seriously. "That's right. Since junior brother Qin knows nothing about the rules, I have studied the rules. Since I have some free time, I will tell you about it." Qin Wushuang said happily. Indeed, I couldn't ask for more. For half a year, Qin Wushuang had been living in seclusion at the Qin house. When he returned to the Stargaze Palace, he left after seeing his teacher. And Tan Zhongqi was also prepared to tell him the rules after he arrived at the Heavenly Lake Empire to prevent him from getting distracted. Today, when they had just gathered, Tan Zhongqi did not even have the time to explain the rules. Wei Yi said, "The friendly competition is somewhat similar to the year-end exam at the Stargaze Palace. However, it is not the same. It is divided into 3 sections. Each country can only send 16 young disciples to participate. And for these 16 young disciples, there are some rules. Each country's number 1 sect will send 10 people, and the other sects will send 6. In total, there will be 16 people." When he said here, Wei Yi paused for a moment and continued. "The first section will not count points. It will be an elimination round. Among the 48 people from the 3 empires, half of them will be eliminated. The remaining half will automatically enter the second section and start the official competition." Eliminate half of them? Will half of them be eliminated from each country, or will half be eliminated regardless of nationality? Regardless of nationality, half will be eliminated. Wei Yi said seriously. "In this first round, no points will be counted. However, the competition will start from the first round. The performance of this round will determine the number of people from each country entering the semifinal. Think about it. If the result of the first round is not ideal, if the number of people entering the semifinal is lower than the average of 8, it will be troublesome. It is because in the semifinal, the difference between having 1 more person and 1 less person is sometimes decisive. Unless one of the top 2 people from each country appears. 1 person is worth 2. Qin Wushuang smiled. "Me and senior brother Wei should be worth 2 initial stage warriors. It should not be a problem, right?" "Of course, it will not be a problem." Wei Yi also explained with a smile. "However, each country has middle stage warriors. Thus, sometimes this advantage will cancel each other out." Of course, this time, the Stargaze Palace has 2 middle stage warriors. This advantage will most likely become the decisive factor. If the other 2 countries do not have any trump cards and only have 1 middle stage warrior each, then we will have the advantage in this section. To a large extent, it will determine the final direction of the friendly competition. Wei Yi sighed. Along the way, I could also feel the expectations from my fellow disciples and the pressure from being the senior brother. At that time, I thought that if junior brother Qin was here, for sure, the situation in the Stargaze Palace would be different. Unexpectedly, junior brother Qin is still here. You don't know that with your appearance, half of the pressure on my shoulders has been removed. I also look forward to fighting the enemies together with you and fighting for the honor for the Stargaze Palace. Wait, you laughed? Back to the topic, the rules of that first round of elimination are similar to that martial arts student exam. The format is similar, but the content is somewhat different. You just need to know the details. When the time comes, you will know the detailed rules. Compared to that martial arts student exam, there will be less chance and more certainty. It will be stricter in terms of stage, strength, and other aspects. It will be clear whether you are strong or weak. Thus, the chance of an upset is not 100%, but it will be minimal. After the elimination round, the second round will also be a variety of tests. There will also be a score evaluation. Then, it will be the third round. The third round will be the true main theme. Martial arts competition. Martial art competition could be said to be the most popular and the most direct form of competition in the Tianxian land. Although this method was primitive and monotonous, it was the most convincing. Now, Qin Wushuang understood why the Stargaze Palace would organize a year-end exam every year. As it turned out, the frequent tests were targeted and not completely meaningless. And of course, this targeted competition was the friendly competition between the three Eastern empires. The format was similar and the content was similar. When Qin Wushuang heard up to this point, he also had some understanding. If that was the case, then everything would not be strange. However, Wei Yi said, "Junior brother Qin, this martial art competition is different from the Stargaze Palace's rounds of advancement. It will not allow any drawing of lots. In other words, it is not an elimination ranking competition. However, it also has the cruelty of an elimination round. There are two possibilities of either continuing or getting eliminated." Oh, on the other hand, Qin Wushuang felt a burst of curiosity. "Senior brother Wei, what is the exact content of this martial arts competition?" Hearing Wei Yi's words, Qin Wushuang could not help but become interested in the rules of this martial arts competition. "Sorry, I was delayed tonight. That's why the update is late. However, the fifth update will not be short. There are still 2 more updates. I will try to finish it before 2220. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading." Chapter 285. Wei Yi explained slowly. For this martial arts competition, first of all, it depends on the number of people from each country that entered the semi-final. If you have more spots, you will have an advantage. More spots will give you an advantage? From Qin Wushuang's point of view, the martial arts competition relied on real skills. If you had more people, it would be useless if you met someone stronger. Yes, this advantage is obvious, Wei Yi said with a determined tone. For example, if there's a country that has 8 people entering the semi-final, then, among these 8 people, half of them would be defenders and the other half would be attackers. Any of the contestants in the arena had 4 chances to challenge another country. In total, the opponents would be 2 countries. In total, it would be 8 chances. Of course, this is only a theoretical challenge. Perhaps some weak candidates would lose the first challenge. Then, they would be disqualified directly. Without the chance to challenge, they could only be challenged. And according to the rules, the challengers would be the attackers. Only the attackers would have points. Regardless of winning or losing, those who were challenged would be defenders and would not have the qualifications to get points. To ordinary people, there would not be much difference between 2 or 8 chances. However, to elite warriors, 2 or 8 chances would mean many more chances to earn points. When he said here, Qin Wushuang glanced at Qin Wushuang meaningfully. In other words, if a country only had 7 places to enter the semi-finals, not only would the distribution of attackers and defenders be less than other countries, resulting in an imbalance between offense and defense. This disadvantage would be very obvious. Qin Wushuang understood the meaning behind this glance. Indeed, he and Wei Yi were both elite warriors from the Stargaze Palace. Thus, perhaps, only the 2 of them would have the opportunity to earn points. Junior brother Qin, these challenges are not repeated mechanically. After each challenge, the difficulty of the next challenge would increase. The first time, it would be 1-on-1. The second time, it would be 1-on-2, and so on. This time, Qin Wushuang finally understood why Wei Yi said that the content of this competition was different. Indeed, it sounded completely different. It also avoided any chance of drawing lots. The first challenge would be 1-on-1. For each subsequent challenge, the number of opponents would increase by 1. Naturally, the difficulty level would continue to increase. However, Qin Wushuang asked, but what if a certain country has 9 or even 10 people who enter the semifinals? The corner of Wei Yi's mouth twitched, and he said seriously, 9 people. The number of times they can attack the arena is still 4. If it's 10 people, they will have 5 chances. Their advantage in numbers was about to be revealed. If a country has 3 defenders, then the attacking side will win the 3rd round. In the 4th round, if the defending side doesn't have enough people, it's equivalent to losing without a fight and letting the other side gain point for nothing. Qin Wushuang's heart trembled. Only now did he understand why the number of people who qualified after the preliminary round was so important. According to this calculation, if someone could really win consecutively during the challenge, the advantage in the quota would be too obvious. Smiling faintly, Qin Wushuang was not overly excited. Instead, he said, fighting 1 against 3 or even 1 against 4, the chances of victory are still slim. However, Wei Yi shook his head and said, it's not uncertain. This is 1 against 4. You don't have to defeat all 4 to win. You only need to defeat any one of them in a 1 versus 4 battle to win. Because if you can defeat one of the opponents in a situation where you are outnumbered, it means you have the upper hand. Therefore, for the defending side, it is very important to restrain the opponent. If you can restrain the opponent within the stipulated time and make him unable to defeat any one of them, it will be considered a successful defending side. Defeating one of them was considered a victory. For the defending side, this was indeed very difficult. Qin Wushuang couldn't help but ask, if that's the case, wouldn't the defending side's tacit understanding and cooperation be very important? If there is a superior formation, wouldn't it be easy to deal with this situation? Wei Yi sighed and said, among the major forces of the 3 eastern countries, there is no one who has a superior formation. However, the rules of the competition are that the defending side of each country cannot use formations. They can only rely on simple tacit understanding and cooperation, and cannot use group attack and group defense formations. This challenge is mainly about the defending side of the arena, not the defending side of the arena. Qin Wushuang smiled bitterly again and again. This rule is too much of an individual strength. The rules are like this. It is to highlight a strong individual strength. However, on the other hand, isn't this beneficial to you, junior brother Qin? Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh and said, I only hope that I can win glory for the sect and do my best. By the way, senior brother Wei, how do we calculate the points of this challenge? It's simple. Each defending side of the arena will count as 10 points. After accumulating, it will be the total points of the individual. For example, if you win the first round, you'll get 10 points. If you win the second round, you will get 20 points, and the third round will get 30 points. After accumulating, in the end, it will be the total points of the individual. And when the points of all the participants from each country are added together, it will be the total points of the entire country. Since Wei Yi had explained it clearly, Qin Wushuang naturally understood. Senior brother Wei, in a martial arts competition, shouldn't there be a clear division of labor between the attacking and defending side of the arena? Both attack and defense must be balanced. It would be useless if one side were to appear. When you attack the arena, you will get all the points. However, when you defend the arena, you will be forced to retreat. Advancing and retreating would be useless. Yes, in such martial arts competition, the balance of attack and defense is extremely important. Thus, it would be an ideal situation to have 2 middle stage warriors. One will be in charge of the defending side, and the other one will be in charge of the attacking side. With both offense and defense, it would be invincible. Qin Wushuang moved his brows and revealed a knowing smile. Apparently, for the Stargaze Palace side, for sure, These two would be in charge of one side each. Of course, there was not much difference between being in charge of offense and defense. It did not mean that one must be in charge of defense if they had strong defensive skills. It would not be useful to have a strong defensive power in a situation where there were many of them. One must also have the power to attack. Or else, if one of your side was defeated, it would count as a failure to defend the arena. It would be useless regardless of how good your defense was. You must ensure that your teammate would not be defeated. Only then, it would count as a successful defense. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang could not help but feel somewhat confused. Senior brother Wei Yi, if one of the defending side were to get injured, then what would happen to the empty spot? Basically, for this arena competition, only the winner and loser will be determined, and not life and death. Even if there are some injuries, it would not affect the overall situation. However, if they are unable to fight due to serious injuries, they would have to bear the consequences. If there are only 4 people defending the arena, and one of them is unable to fight, then it would only be 3 people. Then, for the opponent's challenge, as long as they can pass the 3rd round, they would have won the 4th round without a fight. Thus, to the defending side, they would not be able to see the merits, but the mission would be extremely dangerous. Qin Wushuang gave a long sigh. This rule is truly abnormal. Both of them laughed. On the Stargaze Palace side, with these two in charge, regardless of attacking or defending the arena, they would have the confidence to win. Junior brother Qin, this is not our first time working together. I hope the result this time will be more resplendent and magnificent than last time. Last time, they had worked together to kill that elder Chunjun in gray robes. This time, they would be facing the big stage of the friendly competition. Their performance would directly determine the final result of the great Luo Empire. The two of them clapped their hands and made an oath. Although they did not speak any heroic words, everything was understood without words. From each other's eyes, they had read the determination and courage to win. Okay, junior brother Qin, it's getting late. Get some rest. This martial arts competition is only the 3rd round. It's the final battle. Don't think too much. Let's walk step by step. When the conditions are right, success will follow. Okay. The two of them waved goodbye. Qin Wushuang returned to his room and carefully digested the rules. He knew that this 3rd round would be the most crucial and would determine the outcome. For this night, Qin Wushuang had a good rest. The next morning, according to the arrangement, all the powerhouses of the great Luo gathered together and waited for the Stargaze Palace's arrangements. Since the rules required that the strongest sex in each country could only send out 10 people, the other 6 must be sent out by other powerhouses. Then, they could only follow the rules. This selection took 2 or 3 days. Finally, they had selected 6 relatively outstanding candidates. However, compared to the group of core disciples from the Stargaze Palace, these elite disciples from their own sex could not help but pale in comparison. Without a doubt, these 6 spots were just for show. To enter the semifinals, they must rely on the 10 core disciples from the Stargaze Palace. Regarding the semifinals, Zhuo Buchuan and the other palace masters did not ask for too much. Zhuo Buchuan said, from previous experiences, usually there would not be any accidents with 8 spots from each country. Rarely, there would be an uneven distribution of spots. However, you must not let down your guard. We will not ask for 9 spots. However, we must protect the 8 spots no matter what. Or else, in the end, there will be an imbalance in the distribution of offense and defense. It will greatly affect the overall situation. All the participants nodded. This was something that everyone understood without needing to be explained. Naturally, the 10 spots from the Stargaze Palace were the top 10 that had gone to the Green Jade Mountain for business. After 20 years of waiting, 20 years of reincarnation, the friendly competition between the 3 empires had finally begun with a bang. Outside the mountain square of the archaic mysteries sect of the Heavenly Lake Empire, a grand opening ceremony was held as scheduled, and the participants from each country were also present. Each of their faces was filled with expectation. They were waiting for the end of this boring ceremony to get to the main topic. After the ceremony, The three strongest warriors from the Stargaze Palace, the Archaic Mysteries sect, and the Dragon and Tiger sect stood together and announced the start of the competition. Of course, the first part was to hand in the list of participants. Each of them had 3 copies of the list. They would keep one and give the other 2 to their opponents. After the list had been handed over, it was time to match the names of the participants to prevent any problems such as cheating. When the Archaic Mysteries sect had read the name Qin Wushuang, all the higher-ups of the sect had a change of expression. Qin Wushuang? Didn't this person die at the Green Jade Mountain? Because of this, the Stargaze Palace had fought with the Archaic Mysteries sect for a long time. How come he had appeared at this time? I'm at fault today. I'm writing too slowly. Most likely, I will not be able to write the 5th chapter at 22:20. Most likely, the 5th chapter will be delayed until 2300 hours. Those who cannot wait, go to sleep and read it tomorrow. I will not be lazy, for sure. I will write the 5th chapter. I will do what I say and never go back on my words. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 286. The face of those heads of the Archaic Mysteries sect became serious. Apparently, they all realized that they had been tricked by the Stargaze Palace during the battle at the Green Jade Mountain. The Stargaze Palace had announced that they had lost an upper sky core disciple. Wasn't it this Qin Wushuang? Now, how come this Qin Wushuang had come to participate in the friendly competition? Gao Yu could not help but mock. Head Palace Master Zhua, the Stargaze Palace has been scheming. Did you say that a living person was a dead person to confuse the eyes and ears of the Archaic Mysteries sect? Zhua Buqian also did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, he could not explain and could only say half-heartedly, "Nothing is too deceitful in war." Gao Yu said angrily, "You guys are playing tricks. It has nothing to do with the Archaic Mysteries sect." However, the person who did not die, on that day, your great Luo was entangled with the Heavenly Lake Empire. Clearly, you were fishing in troubled waters, and a thief calling out to catch a thief. However, Zhua Buqian shook his head. No, it's natural for the great Luo to defend the Green Jade Mountain. It's the right of a sovereign country. And those powerhouses that do not have a right to rule the Green Jade Mountain and want to mess around inside are the real thieves, right? Or else, why would you act so sneakily and go for wool and come home shorn? Nonsense. Gao Yu scolded angrily. Everyone knows that half of the Green Jade Mountain belongs to the Heavenly Lake Empire. Since when did the great Luo own it exclusively? It's useless to say more. Currently, the Green Jade Mountain is in ruins. Sect Master Gao wouldn't even let those ruins go, right? Gao Yu's face turned ashen. What value did the current Green Jade Mountain have? When this Zhua Buqian spoke sarcastic words, how could he know that he was feeling sorry for those 5 elders? On the other hand, Shi Chenglong, the head of the Dragon and Tiger sect, smiled. You two, at this moment, you are still in the mood to bicker. There are so many candidates below the stage waiting for us to verify their identities and announce the rules. Shi Chenglong's words made Gao Yu feel even more frustrated. However, he did not lose his temper. On the other hand, Zhua Buqian was at ease, as if he had a card up his sleeve and was not worried at all. The verification of identities was not complicated, and it was completed soon. After the verification, he started announcing the rules. Indeed, as Wei had said, the rules of the first round were somewhat similar to that martial arts student exam Qin Wushuang had participated. It was also to find the jade plates. However, the search for the jade tablet this time was completely different from the last time. The jade tokens this time were made at the last minute. Furthermore, they were tailor-made for each person. Each person had 10 jade tokens. These 10 jade tokens would be infused with the spiritual power in each participant's chi. Then, they would be sealed and thrown into the training ground. These jade tokens all had their own spiritual aura. Therefore, Each contestant had to rely on this spiritual aura to search for their own jade token. This was a test of the contestants' spiritual energy realm and sensitivity to spiritual energy. In the end, it was a test of cultivation level. It was no wonder that way you would say that the difference between the strong and the weak would be very obvious here. Those with low cultivation bases wouldn't be able to sense the jade medallion, as well as those with high cultivation bases. Thus, in a limited amount of time, there would be a difference in the number of cards obtained. The most important thing was that each of these 10 jade tokens had a different level. From 1 point to 10 points, the difficulty would increase and the hidden depth would increase. In other words, it might be easy to find 1 point, 2, or 3 points. However, the further it went, the more difficult it would be. And in the final competition, the total score would be calculated. Thus, the difference between the strong and the weak would be reflected without a doubt. Qin Wushuang digested this rule and laughed inwardly. Although the content is different, it is still to find the jade tokens. With the experience from last time, this time, I have gained a little advantage. Of course, since the rules were different, it would determine his strategy to change accordingly. For these jade tokens, besides the one that corresponded to him, the others were not related to him. He would not be able to tell who they belonged to. Thus, even if he saw them, he could not take them or destroy them. It was because he could not guarantee whether the one he destroyed belonged to the enemy or his own country. Of course, there was another point. The contestants were not allowed to attack each other. All in all, the only mission of every single person was to wholeheartedly search for the 10 jade tokens that belonged to them. Everything else was of no importance and was useless. Even if you found 100 other people's jade tokens and defeated all your opponents, it would be useless. In the first round of the competition, only the 10 jade tokens that belonged to him were recognized. The more he found, the more he would get. The rules were simple, but the atmosphere was extremely tense. In the first round of the semifinals, the trial area is only 300 miles. But I must tell you, if you find other people's jade tokens, it is best not to dig them out, because there is a 2/3 chance that you will be helping your opponent. And there is only a 1/3 chance that you will be helping your own country's contestants. You should know how to weigh the pros and cons of this. Therefore, you only have one goal, and that is to search for your own jade tokens wholeheartedly. The time limit is only 3 days. It is very short and hurried. This also means that in these 3 days and 3 nights, you must not stop. You cannot be the slightest bit careless or careless. And because the time limit is short, the final result will be very clear. Remember, there are a total of 48 of you. The 480 jade tokens will be stored by the 3 leaders of the 3 empires. Every storage will be done fairly, and the degree of difficulty will also be very reasonable. There will never be a situation where some people find it easy and others find it difficult. This kind of exchange competition had gone through many rounds. Basically, it was impossible for the host to have any possibility of cheating, because the trial area they provided also had to be decided by the leaders of the 3 empires. Then, they would let the contestants adapt for 2 days before the competition officially began. In this way, the host would also avoid any geographical advantage. After the announcement of the first round of the competition, they began to collect each contestant's spiritual energy and create their corresponding jade tokens. This procedure also required the joint supervision of the 3 leaders. Every contestant went up on stage one by one and poured in spiritual energy. The amount must be exactly the same. Otherwise, the amount of spiritual energy in the jade token would also affect the degree of difficulty in finding the jade token. After all, if there was more spiritual energy, it would naturally be much easier to sense. When it was Qin Wushuang's turn, he did not show off too much. He generously poured in his spiritual energy and made the 10 jade tokens. Only then did he go down. When all the contestants had completed this procedure, the most oppressed one was the head of the archaic mysteries sect, Gao Yu. During this process, he had been paying attention to the situation of each contestant, especially the contestants from the 2 empires. He had been observing them without missing a single one. he discovered with depression that regardless of the Stargaze Palace or the Dragon and Tiger sect, they both had two middle-stage warriors. And now, as the host, the Archaic Mysteries sect only had one middle-stage warrior left. He was Gao Yu's head disciple, Luo Guiyun. Luo Guiyun was the only one with the natural spiritual roots in the Heavenly Lake Empire. He was slightly older than Wei. Currently, he also had a high level of strength and was the publicly recognized leader of the Archaic Mysteries sect. And Devil Boy, a rising star among the younger generation, had looked down on everything. Yet, he did not dare to show the slightest disrespect to this senior brother, Luo Guiyun. It was apparent that Luo Guiyun was powerful. At least, he could make Devil Boy fearful of him. His strength and temperament were extraordinary. Only, in this friendly competition, if each of the opponents had two middle-stage warriors and the Heavenly Lake Empire only had one, it would be troublesome. Inwardly, Gao Yu was furious and held a grudge against Devil Boy's death. However, up to this point, the Heavenly Lake Empire had no other choice but to press on. After all, middle-stage warriors were not cabbages or radishes that could not be produced easily. Inwardly, he swore. The Stargaze Palace is cunning and did not hesitate to spread rumors to confuse people. The Dragon and Tiger sect has hidden dragons and crouching tigers. They also have two core disciples of the middle stage. Indeed, it's troublesome. It seems that I must not let down my guard for any of the houses. Too bad for Devil Boy. If he was here, with his attack power, he would be in charge of attacking and Guiyun would be in charge of defending. With one attacking and one defending, how could I let those two take advantage? Although he felt depressed, he could only accept the reality. I only hope that this time, I can build a relationship with the Red Dragon Empire. If I can build a relationship with the Red Dragon Empire, I can still regret it even if my results are not ideal. For that endless Eastern Sea, it's one thing to explore it with those two countries. It's also one thing to explore it with the Red Dragon Empire. If I can pull the Red Dragon Empire onto the big ship to explore the endless Eastern Sea, why would I care about their thoughts? Inwardly, Gao Yu was calculating rapidly. He had already started to think of other methods. Zhuobuchuan had been observing Gao Yu with cold eyes. When he saw that Gao Yu was expressionless, yet viciousness emerged from the corner of his eyes from time to time, he could not help but be on guard. And the Dragon and Tiger sect's dragon head, Shi Chenglong, was also observing Gao Yu. Inwardly, he was also on guard. He exchanged a glance with Zhuobuchuan, and they both understood each other. At the Heavenly Lake Empire, these guests could not be careless. After all the matters had been discussed, the contestants were dismissed for now. The three leaders, on the other hand, chose the location for the first round. They chose a training ground that was 300 miles wide. After the selection, the contestants would have 2 days to get used to the place and understand it. This was to be fair and to prevent the Archaic Mysteries sect from taking advantage of the geographical location. With 2 days to get used to the place, regardless of the contestants from the Great Luo or the Vermilion Empire, they would not be unfamiliar with the place. After getting used to the place, the three leaders started to bury those jade plates. The place where they buried them was also random. This also prevented the possibility of the Archaic Mysteries sect cheating with their disciples. And after arranging these jade plates, these three leaders would not leave each other's side until the end of the first round. This way, the possibility of leaking information would also be cut off. Everything was ready, except for the east wind. On the 7th day of the 7th month, the first round of the competition had officially started. All 48 contestants were thrown into this 300 miles training ground in 48 directions. 300 kilometers was not considered very far, but if 48 people were to enter, it would be like 48 stones being thrown into a river. There would not be any sense of crowding. Qin Wushuang calmed down and took a deep breath. He knew that a new battle had begun. This time, it was no longer a competition between sections. It was a genuine battle for the country, for the sects, and for the survival and status of the Great Luo Empire. Phew, it's finally done. This transitional chapter is much more difficult to write than the main plot. It's like building a house. The The foundation and framework are more difficult. Laying bricks is much easier. Hee. The next step is laying bricks. Brothers, let's continue. By the way, I recommend a book, The Beauty's Guardian. Book number 1724419. Author, Super Jackal. The valiant life of a flashy man. The man who is called the Beauty's Guardian by everyone, possessing the strength to make all the mothers-in-law in the world fall in love with him. This super evildoer is worried about which family's daughter to choose. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 287. To Qin Wushuang, such preliminary competition was not challenging at all. He was more curious about what senior brother Wei Yi had said about the secrets of the endless Eastern Sea. If the endless Eastern Sea was truly that mysterious, it would be worth exploring. Regardless, since the palace masters of the Stargaze Palace placed such importance on this competition, then the exploration of that endless Eastern Sea would be extremely important. Qin Wushuang decided to exert all his efforts. Currently, among the younger generation of the three Eastern empires, Qin Wushuang was definitely one of the best. Thus, although this preliminary competition was somewhat difficult, it was not difficult for him. In the first day, Qin Wushuang had successfully found 7 jade plates. With the result of the first day, it would not be a problem for him to enter the semifinals. Qin Wushuang did not want to show off his talent. On the first night, he did not make a move. Instead, he found a relatively remote place to conserve his energy. Thinking about it, it was also fortunate that when he absorbed the spiritual power of the ghost boy, he deliberately found a corner to completely integrate the spiritual power. Otherwise, when making these jade cards and injecting spiritual power, if the head of the Tianji sect, Gao Yu, felt a sense of familiarity, then it would inevitably be troublesome. After a night, Qin Wushuang made a move again. He decided to finish the task a day earlier. In total, he had 3 days. If he finished it a day earlier, he would not appear to be in the limelight and could save a day. Thus, on the second day, Qin Wushuang's speed had increased significantly. He wandered around and searched for the remaining 3 jade plates that belonged to him. It wasn't long before he found the 8th spiritual power jade medallion that belonged to him in a small creek under a mountain stream. For sure, the next 2 must be in a more hidden and difficult to find places. The difficulty of this 8th piece is already like this. I believe that at this level of difficulty, most people would not be able to find their jade plates. As Qin Wushuang thought about it, he did not stop and continue to search. It wasn't until noon that Qin Wushuang found his 9th jade pendant under the grass near a cave. Just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly saw a figure flash in front of him. He saw Zhao Muji coming out from the other side of the valley. When he saw Qin Wushuang, Zhao Muji said happily, "Junior Marshal Brother Qin, what a coincidence. 300 miles, 48 people, there was still a chance for them to meet." However, this was the first time that Qin Wushuang had met a disciple from his own sect. This was not because of other people, but because Qin Wushuang had always kept a low profile. He rarely went to crowded places, so he rarely met people. "Senior Brother Zhao, how's your harvest?" I'm looking for the 7th piece. Previously, I thought that this kind of test content was simply rubbish. Now, it seems that it's not as easy as I thought. Zhao Muji sighed and said, "But my luck is good. I found a most difficult 10-point tile." He had 6 jade plates in his hand. "All right, Junior Brother Qin, how's your harvest?" "Same as you. I'm looking for the 8th piece." Qin Wushuang made up a lie out of kindness. He did not want his fellow disciples to feel awkward before his power. Stunned, Zhao Muji nodded. "Yes, you should be able to find all of them in 3 days, right? I will try to find 8 or 9 pieces." "I wonder how the other disciples are doing?" Qin Wushuang asked curiously. Zhao Muji said, "I met Zhou Fu. Like me, she is looking for the 7th one. Senior Brother Wei is looking for the 9th one. No wonder you two are the best in the Stargaze Palace." Qin Wushuang smiled lightly. Although the points from this preliminary round will not carry into the semifinal round, it will affect the spots. I only hope that all of us can advance smoothly. This way, we will have a greater chance in the semifinal round. By the way, Senior Brother Zhao, I've concluded that the probability of hiding jade plates is higher in the valley and cave area. If you meet someone from the same sect, you can share these with them. Okay, Zhao Muji kept nodding. Time is tight. Let's not chat anymore. Let's keep working hard. The two of them nodded, smiled at each other, and left. Naturally, Qin Wushuang did not feel any pressure when he had obtained the 9 jade plates. Even if he did not look for that 10th jade plate, he would still find it. Finally, in the evening, before the sun had set, Qin Wushuang found the 10th jade plate that belonged to him in one of the cracks of the cliff. Just when he was about to jump up from that sheer cliff, suddenly he felt his hand had loosened. The rock that he had used to climb up fell down, and Qin Wushuang's body slid down. Next, Qin Wushuang felt that a large area of the mountain kept falling down. That situation seemed to be the legendary landslide, and the cliff below Qin Wushuang was tens of thousands of meters deep. Unless he could transform into a bird, or else, once he fell down, he would only end up with his body smashed into pieces. Even an elite warrior at the perfect stage would not be able to do anything. In the blink of an eye, Qin Wushuang felt a wave of spiritual qi from the top of the cliff. Behind this wave, there was a cold sneer that was sent down lightly. Qin Wushuang realized that it was not a landslide, but a man-made one. Fortunately, Qin Wushuang did not panic despite his busy schedule. He flicked his sleeve, and the snake-shaped soft whip had already wrapped around a tree that protruded from the sheer cliff 6 meters away. Just by borrowing the force, Qin Wushuang's body swayed and shot horizontally like a pendulum clock. Again, he borrowed the force and moved horizontally to the side. He knew that he could not jump up. Or else, if this person was still waiting for him up there, wouldn't he be walking right into a trap? In a hurry, in his passive position, if the enemy wanted to attack him slightly, he would have no way to retreat and could only fall down the 10,000 meters cliff. In such a short time, Qin Wushuang had considered all kinds of situations. He kept moving horizontally. Instead of going up, he kept falling down. He knew that the closer his body was to the bottom of the cliff, the less the enemy's destructive power would affect him. Finally, Qin Wushuang stopped when he had dropped 10 meters below the ground. Don't underestimate those few moves. In fact, Qin Wushuang had used all of his methods to escape from danger. The enemy's plan was extremely vicious. It seemed that they had been lying in ambush for a long time in the surrounding area and prepared to ambush him. Who is it? Qin Wushuang leaned against the sheer cliff and felt the hostility. After a moment, he realized that the enemy should have already left. Could it be that he thought that his ambush would succeed? He didn't even have the interest to come over and take a look. Qin Wushuang kept analyzing in his mind. He felt that this matter was most likely related to the disciples of the archaic mystery sect. Besides, to be able to grasp the timing so accurately in such a short period of time, and to be able to crack the stone wall of the cliff by himself, this method seemed to have surpassed the scope of the initial stage of the spiritual martial force. I just don't know if this person had already ambushed others. Vividly, Qin Wushuang was worried. What if it were other disciples of the Stargaze Palace? They would not have survived this attack. If Qin Wushuang did not have that snake-shaped soft whip and had dodged 2 meters away in a flash, most likely he would have only one ending. That would be to fall off the cliff and be smashed into pieces. When he thought here, Qin Wushuang felt somewhat angry inwardly. Of course, he would not consider the rules. The rules did not allow the participants to attack each other in the preliminary round. However, since this person dared to make a move, for sure, he would be able to evade the eyes and ears of others. He would only come once. Whether he succeeded or not, he would retreat immediately and not leave any traces. Even if Qin Wushuang went up now, he would not be able to find out who had made the move. Indeed, it's a good plan. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang was burning with anger. This person wanted to take his life as soon as he made a move. If Qin Wushuang knew who this person was, of course, he would not let him go. Don't let me know who you are. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang thought with hatred as he climbed up the cliff. When he arrived at the top of the cliff, he saw that the 1-meter wide stone wall had completely collapsed at his previous position. It had sunk 6 or 7 meters deep. The mountain rocks kept rolling down. If a person was there, for sure, he would have been pressed down the cliff. With lingering fear, Qin Wushuang glanced around coldly to make sure that this person had left. Then, he left angrily. Although he had already acquired the 10 jade plates, he had changed his mind and would not leave the arena for the time being. Now, with the existence of an enemy that specialized in ambushing people from the dark, his fellow disciples from the Stargaze Palace would inevitably be harassed by him. Thus, Qin Wushuang decided to stay and protect his fellow disciples. At the same time, he would also observe who this person was. Since you don't follow the rules, then let's play outside the rules. Qin Wushuang sneered. Just as he was about to step forward, he saw Miao Zhongxia, the head disciple of the 5th Palace Master, walking towards the cliff where he had been. Qin Wushuang immediately called out, "Senior brother Miao, where are you going?" When Miao Zhongxia saw that it was Qin Wushuang, he laughed. "I sensed that there seemed to be a jade plate ahead, so I'm going to take a look. Only, this spiritual qi presence is extremely weak and intermittent. I don't know if it's accurate." However, Qin Wushuang asked, "How many have you found?" "I am ashamed. I'm only looking for the 7th one. What about you? Have you found everything?" Qin Wushuang nodded. "I have collected everything. Senior brother Miao, I will go with you. There is a cliff ahead, and it's extremely steep. I almost suffered a great loss there." Immediately, he explained the situation at the cliff. Miao Zhongxia's expression changed slightly. "Do you know who the killer is? That person is extremely cunning. After that attack, he disappeared. We don't have any clues." Then he said to Miao Zhongxia, "I'm going to protect you. This way, we will not need to be afraid of those evil people sneaking up on us Stargaze disciples." Miao Zhongxia said gratefully, "Junior brother Qin is warm-hearted and truly admirable. If I go back this time, I will find junior brother Lu and junior brother Gu. I will ask them to let go of the grudges between the West Shu and you. They must not hold any grudges. Senior brother Miao, you are too polite. Now we are working for the sect and for the great Luo Empire. Let's go." 2 silhouettes flew towards a cliff. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chijian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 288. With Qin Wushuang's protection, Miao Zhongxia did not encounter any real threats after obtaining the jade plates. Soon, he found his 7th jade plate. After leaving this place, Qin Wushuang and Miao Zhongxia agreed to spread the information about the sneak attack. When they met any disciples of the Stargaze Palace, they would warn them to prevent them from suffering a great loss. Qin Wushuang had completed his task of finding the jade plates without any burden. Thus, he was much more efficient than Miao Zhongxia when he spread the information. Especially at night. If that person intended to sneak attack, he must be on guard. According to the rules, whoever attacked the opponent would affect the result of the entire country. Therefore, sneak attacks were strenuous and unrewarding, and rarely happened in the preliminary rounds. However, Qin Wushuang had encountered it. He speculated that the people of the Vermilion Empire would not be so bored and would not have any motive. For sure, the biggest suspect would be the Heavenly Lake Empire and the Archaic Mysteries sect. Before the sky turned dark, Qin Wushuang went to the border area and complained to the 3 leaders. Of course, he also knew that such complaints would not have any effect. After all, he had no evidence, and he did not even know who the attacker was. When he returned to the exam site, Qin Wushuang happened to meet Senior Brother Wei Yi. Senior Brother Wei Yi showed a somewhat displeased expression. When he saw Qin Wushuang, he immediately greeted him. "Junior Brother Qin, how did it go?" "I already finished collecting the jade plates. Senior Brother Wei, how about you?" Wei Yi said, "I also just finished it. I heard from my fellow disciples that someone had attacked you." "Yes. At the moment, Qin Wushuang told him about what had happened inside the cliff. Apparently, Wei Yi was also somewhat depressed because of this matter. After hearing Qin Wushuang's words, he nodded and said, "Since you and I have collected all the jade plates, then we have a plan. I am afraid this person did not attack you to stop you from getting the jade plates, but to use the opportunity to harm you. Senior brother Wei, who do you think this person is?" Wei Yi shook his head. "Among your opponents, there are only 3 people who have the power to attack you. 1 from the Archaic Mysteries sect, 2 from the Dragon and Tiger sect. As for the other contestants, even if they wanted to, they didn't have the guts or the strength to do so. Therefore, that person might have come for the 2 of us." Senior Martial Brother Wei has also encountered it. Qin Wushuang asked curiously. Wei Yi shook his head. "I'm luckier than you. I haven't been targeted by him yet. Since this person has the leisure to deal with you, he must have already collected all the jade tokens. I am worried that since he could not deal with us, he would make a move against the other powerful disciples of the Stargaze Palace. Even if we don't kill them, it wouldn't be a good idea to harass them and prevent them from finding the jade tokens." Qin Wushuang's expression was grim. He nodded and said, "This is indeed something we have to guard against. Senior Brother Wei Yi, how about this? You and I will split into 2 groups and follow a few of our most powerful disciples. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Even if that person wanted to make a move, he would have to hold back. I won't dare to act rashly." Wei Yi sighed. "We can only use this stupid method. We are in the light, and this man is in the dark. However, Junior Martial Brother Qin, I think Luo Gayun of the Archaic Mysteries sect is the most suspicious. For this person, regardless of you or me, we will follow him and delay him until the end of the competition. How about it?" A trace of cold light flashed across Qin Wushuang's eyes as he answered, "Okay, Luo Gayun." Qin Wushuang silently chewed on this name. He knew that this Luo Gayun was the head disciple of Gao Yu, the head of the Archaic Mysteries sect. He was the strongest person among the younger generation of the Archaic Mysteries sect in the Heavenly Lake Empire. He also had the natural spiritual roots. However, he was older than Senior Martial Brother Wei and seemed to have a deeper stage. For this person, regardless of this friendly competition or in the future, he was destined to be a great enemy. Inwardly, Qin Wushuang calculated. He and Wei Yi split into 2 groups and started to patrol around the 300 miles training ground. Although this method was stupid, it was the only one they could do at the moment. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened on this night. Under the care of Qin Wushuang and Wei Yi, Zhou Yifu, Zhao Muji, and the others did not encounter any accidents on the way to find the jade plates. When the 3rd day was about to end, these 2 had also collected all the jade plates. With 3 sharp whistling sounds, it announced the end of this preliminary round. Zhou Fu and Zhao Muji had become the last 2 candidates from the Stargaze Palace to get a perfect score. Next, it was Deng Bohu and Miao Zhongxia. One of them had acquired 9 plates, and the other had acquired 8. There was no suspense. After all the candidates had come out, they handed in their jade plates and tallied their scores. However, the ranking of the results would only appear the next morning. The contestants who knew each other all gathered together and talked about their gains and losses. Early in the morning of the 2nd day, everyone gathered outside the headquarters of the Archaic Mysteries sect to wait for the final results to be announced. Entering the semi-final was not only an honor, but also a great reward, especially those small sections. Although they knew that they had little chance of entering the semi-final, they still held some hope. If one of their disciples was lucky enough to enter the semi-final, then for sure, this sect would have good luck and enter the eyes of the mainstream. It would be extremely beneficial to the development of the sect. Once again, the 3 leaders walked out together. From their expression, there should not be much suspense about the results of this preliminary round. Indeed, when the ranking list was posted, among the 24 candidates that had entered the semi-final, the 3 empires had each taken 8 spots. Not one more and not one less. One did not know if it was a prearranged arrangement or a coincidence. It was similar to the previous preliminary rounds. The distribution of the spots was still very equal. There were no unexpected mistakes. This way, regarding the gains and losses of the preliminary round, at least in this first round, the three empires had not determined a winner. For the Stargaze Palace, without any suspense, Wei Yi and Qin Wushuang were the leaders. Zhou Fu and Zhao Muji had also performed outstandingly and had also received a perfect score. Then it was Deng Bohu and Miao Zhongxia. The remaining seventh spot was taken by Liu Xiaonan, the second disciple of the head palace master. As for the eighth place, there was a tie. For the line of the head palace master and the line of the second palace master, Huang Chuyang and LV Tung had taken the same spot. This time, Tan Zhongxi did not compete. He let Huang Chuyang take the spot and persuaded LV Tung to withdraw. LV Tung also knew that per the rules of the past, usually it would be based on the ranking of the sect and the ranking of the sect. And LV Tung was ranked 9th among the core disciples of the sect. He was ranked lower than Huang Chaoyang. Thus, it was reasonable for him to give way. Although he was competitive, he knew to respect the rules and did not complain. This way, the 8 semi-final spots for the Great Luo had all been decided. After a day of adjustment, the next day would be the start of the semi-final round. After the list was set, regardless of the gains and losses, it was all in the past. Now, everyone's attention was focused on the upcoming semi-final round. They had completely thrown their personal gains and losses to the back of their minds. When they returned to their resting place, Zhuo Buchuan gathered all the disciples. He comforted those who had not entered the semi-final and encouraged them. He said, "Boys, this is a rare opportunity. Our great Luo Empire has achieved many good results in the friendly competition between the 3 Eastern empires. However, in the friendly competition held by the Heavenly Lake Empire, we have never won the championship, and we have always been at the bottom. This time, it's our chance." There was a trace of fanaticism in the eyes of all the disciples. They looked at Zhuo Buchuan and waited for him to continue. The friendly competition between the 3 Eastern empires is not as simple as you see it. The situation behind it involves the game between the 3 empires and many conflicts of interest. The most important point is the right to explore the endless Eastern Sea. The Stargaze Palace was able to become the leader of the Great Luo and the authority of the empire, not only because we occupied the virtuous Cloud Mountain range, but also because every 20 years, we would always get some benefits from the exploration of the endless Eastern Sea. These benefits are usually our biggest capital. To put it bluntly, how did the 5 of us palace masters enter the advanced stage before the others? Do we only rely on our talent? Not entirely. There was a trace of incitement in Zhuo Buchuan's tone. On the path of martial arts, talent is important. However, opportunities and fortune cannot be ignored. The 5 of us were able to get ahead of the others because of the special opportunities we acquired from the exploration of the endless Eastern Sea. Tan Zhongqi and Tian Zhixing also nodded to show their affirmation of Zhuo Buchuan's words. Although for a few hundred years, countless Stargaze seniors had sacrificed their lives to explore the endless Eastern Sea. You could even say that it was a narrow escape. However, why did the 3 Eastern empires still rush forward one after another to acquire more spots to explore the endless Eastern Sea? They were all pursuing such special opportunities. There was a trace of sadness in Zhuo Buchuan's tone. From my generation to yours, how many 20 years have passed? How many friendly competitions have there been? And currently, how many Upper Sky disciples does the Stargaze Palace have? Where did those disciples in the middle, those people, go? When these disciples heard these words, their hearts turned cold. In the past, they also had many similar questions. Not many of them were older than 40 years old. Their teacher and the others were close to 200 years old. For sure, many generations had passed. And what about those people? Although a portion of them had become Shakyamuni and elders, it was impossible for them to only have these few elite warriors after all these years, right? Perhaps you all guessed it. Many of the Stargaze Palace disciples before you had all participated in the friendly competition and went to explore the endless Eastern Sea. However, in the past 100 years, none of those who had gone to the endless Eastern Sea had returned. When Zhuobuchuan said here, a trace of strange light flashed across his eyes. Now, this mission is about to fall on your heads. Are you going to face the difficulties or retreat? In this friendly competition, use your performance to tell us the answer. At the same time, you will also tell those seniors the answer. It was a choice, and it would not be an easy one. If they chose to face the difficulties, even if they had won first place in this friendly competition, they would face a narrow escape from death when they explored the endless Eastern Sea. And if they chose to retreat, they would lose the opportunity to explore the endless Eastern Sea. Once the other two empires had succeeded in exploring the endless Eastern Sea and acquired the fortuitous opportunities, the Stargaze Palace would be left far behind in the future of the next generation. Thus, the entire Great Luo Empire would be left far behind. The young people all realized that this was not a choice for their own future, but a choice that would affect the fate of the entire sect and even the entire country. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.